You either live by the gun or you die by the sword.
Welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. I'm Nico.
And I'm Chris.
And today we talk about beauty and careers that definitely require moisture, but I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know.
Yes.
I was trying to pull in a Zoolander bullshit, but it doesn't work, and...
Yeah, I mean... It's okay. Somehow, all of this ties back around to The Devil Wears Prada.
Yes. Oh, that's right. You want moisture because you're going to be in hell.
Oh, okay, there we go.
That's where I was going with
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we watched The Devil Wears Prada, a movie that I had seen and surprisingly enjoyed. I didn't think it was going to be one of my favorites. You hadn't seen this one, right?
I before deciding to do this, I had not seen it strictly because I thought it was going to be a very stereotypical chick flick.
That's how I felt when it came out, and I was forced to watch it because my mother and my aunt really thought this was going to be like the greatest movie of all time. Surprise, they still feel that way about it, and I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, depending on what month it came out, I could have potentially seen trailers for it.
You definitely saw trailers for it, because they trailered this sucker hard.
Well, let me look real quick.
So, they threw the trailers for this at the front of, like, all of the stuff for the new Batman movie, I think it was. Which was always kind of an oddball, because you're sitting there in the, like, waiting for Batman to start.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it was Superman. I don't remember. It's either Batman or Superman. And it's old school Batman Superman, because this is like, what, 2006?
Yeah, June 22nd, 2006, which I would have been, June 30th for the rest of the United States.
Yep.
That would have been, I probably wasn't paying too much attention because we would have been getting ready to move in about a month from there, so.
If you saw any of the, like, superhero stuff, there was a trailer for this at the beginning of all of those movies.
Nope.
I don't, like, I understand why from a marketing standpoint, because the marketing team went on to explain that they did quite a lot trying to promote this movie. Which, you know, good on them, I guess. And their thought was, well, this will be the counterpart to the superhero flick of the summer. Which I get, and logically makes sense. However, from an audience standpoint, I was not into fashion or rom-coms. I was, however, into superheroes at this time.
I was not, and so I don't even remember 100% like what movies we really went to back then. Because, yeah, I think we were too busy with soccer and stuff because my parents have 3 kids and we're all doing different sports and stuff, so...
Yeah, if you weren't your own sport, you're going to your sibling's sport.
Yeah, and if we were watching movies, it was normally... I think we still went to Blockbuster heavily at this time, too, so we were picking out VHSs and stuff, or DVDs by this point that didn't have that.
I totally get that. I do remember, though, that there was, like, TV commercials for this. There was, like, the preview that ran at the movie theater, and then there was the one that ran on TV. Because at this point, we had, quote-unquote, normal TV in my house, not just PBS.
Yeah.
And it was, like, it was only, like, the first 3 minutes worth of film were in the preview.
Okay.
And, like, at the time, that was kind of different. Because this was the same time period where, like, it was really popular to just have the whole movie as the preview. Just all of it, no surprises, really, especially for a rom-com.
Yeah, you mean a good chunk of trailers nowadays? Or no,
yes.
They move more so trying to make the movie out to be something different than what it actually is, in my opinion.
This was, like, at the highest point of the whole, like, oh, I don't need to see the movie, I saw the trailer.
Oh, okay.
And they made the trailer for this before the movie was done, so they only had the first, like, half of the movie to work with, trailer-wise.
Okay.
Which actually turned out in their benefit, because nobody actually knew the ending, even though they had seen the whole trailer.
Yeah, I can see that working. And yeah, now that you bring it up, because, like, this is the time frame where me and my brother spent a lot of time in the basement, because, outside or in the basement, because it was cooler in the basement, and we were always watching, like, Cartoon Network or the Sci-Fi Channel, so this wasn't really the target audience that they'd put the trailer for.
No, but this still ended up on some of those weird ones, because I also was not the target audience for this. And I still ended up with commercials for this bad boy on the TV in America. Because I think partially because they were like, well, if your kids don't want to watch this, you will.
Well, I was in Nebraska at this point, so like
I
don't know why I just didn't.
You managed to miss it. You dodged this sucker, and I don't know how. Because man, they put this everywhere, which ended up working out. Because again, my aunt and my mom were like, "This movie sounds amazing. You're coming with us." Because at this point, they really wanted me to like do things with them.
Okay.
I was not that person, but this movie was good.
Yeah.
And even back then, I was like, I hate that I like this movie.
Yeah. With you explaining that, it kind of makes me think of Mamma Mia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so a lot of people actually pointed this out. This was before Mamma Mia.
I know it was. My ex-girlfriend was super obsessed with it.
But this paved the way a little bit for movies similar to Mamma Mia, where like this isn't necessarily in the same like realm as Mamma Mia. But if you like Devil Wears Prada, you're going to like fill in all the blanks here, like Mamma Mia. And so a lot of people were like, yeah, this helped create the path of like, I don't like rom-coms, but I'm going to go see Mamma Mia.
Okay.
Which they're not wrong. I went and saw Mamma Mia. Wasn't my favorite, but I do love ABBA. But you see my problem.
Yeah, no, I see it. ABBA's a different conversation for me.
But that was the joy. That was the good part of the movie.
I know ABBA because we had a very limited CD list.
That was, yes.
So I'm very familiar with the greatest hits of ABBA.
I am also familiar with the greatest hits of ABBA because it was either the greatest hits of ABBA or the greatest hits of country. And no one in my family liked country.
Yeah, we had ABBA, Billy Joel, some classic rock stuff, and what was the other one? That was Bee Gees. We
had the Pretenders, which this was pre-Shrek that we had the Pretenders CD, so no one knew who they were. Yeah. Other than, like, my parents, which is why we had the CD.
So, for those who don't know, because we've been talking about the era of when this came out a bit.
But also, how do you not know about this movie?
I can see it being missed nowadays, but for those who don't know, The Devil Wears Prada is a 2006 comedic drama about a woman taking a job at a fashion magazine to be the assistant to a demanding editor-in-chief, aka the Devil in Prada.
Yes. And we've talked a lot about how beforehand people saw this, or like how they ended up going to see this. But part of the reason we wanted to talk about this is this movie continues to be like something that people remember.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like I love rom-coms, I love drama movies. No, like people like my father who have no connection to the fashion world whatsoever. Man wears socks with sandals on the regular. Even he was like, no, I connect with this movie.
Well, yeah, and I mean, to a point, too. I mean, we can get into that, because there's quite a bit of reasons why I think people connect with this a bit more than the other standard rom-coms that we think of.
Yes.
So first off, it's directed by David Frankel, and it's based off the novel by Lauren Weisberger, with the screenplay by Aline Brosh McKenna.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that Fox bought the rights before the novel was even finished. They only had the first 300 pages. No, it's not even 300 pages. The first couple hundred pages and a rough outline of it. They're like, yeah, this is what we're gonna go with.
Which is impressive because the book was popular when it came out. Movie came out shortly after, and then the book jumped up to like one of the best sellers in America because of the movie.
Oh yeah,
Which,
yeah,
I mean, it makes sense because like let's be real. This is the target audience of like the book club group.
Yeah.
And, like, this book would be a perfect book club book.
Yeah, and, I mean, the book came out 3 years before, so...
Like, it wasn't terribly old at that point.
No.
Yeah. It was a very smart play by Fox.
Yeah, but it's also like Harry Potter releasing the movies, and of course book sales are going to go up.
Yeah, little different, though, because we were waiting on one and then the other.
True.
This one, thankfully, wisely, chose to be a standalone in both realms.
Yes. And many of the first people who worked on the screenplay were more inclined to make it more like Zoolander and more of a parody rather than an actual commentary, light commentary,
Yes.
I'll say.
But, and while they definitely did manage to pull some of that,
Yeah.
part of the joy, as we know, working in a large office, though granted not as chaotic as this one, is it's one of those workplace environments where, like, you can't make some of this shit up. If you tried, you can't make it more Zoolander-y because it's the source material already exists.
Yeah.
Which is why I think this movie works.
Yeah, because it's grounded in a more realism than Zoolander was.
Exactly.
Like, Zoolander was...
It was delightfully fantasy drama. But you knew that. Like, you watch it and you're like, no, there's like one place in America that works like this.
If that.
If that. Whereas with The Devil Wears Prada, granted, hopefully, most people's places are not this crazy all the time. However, everyone has worked in a place that has at least elements of this. Hopefully not all together, but they all are there.
Yeah, mine is my team's quite hectic. So,
like everyone, even if you're not in fashion, even if you're not in journalism, like you can be like, yeah, I've had that boss.
Yeah.
I've worked for that person. I've worked with this other person.
I've worked fast food before.
Yeah. Yeah.
But before this, Frankel had worked mainly on television shows, including Band of Brothers, Sex and the City, and Entourage. And
boy, Sex and the City fits right in the vibe.
Oh yeah, no, this movie has a lot of connections to Sex and the City.
Yeah, it's the same demographic.
Yeah,
both are good though.
And I also do want to bring up that he would go on to direct Marley and Me, which
another good one
we mentioned in the last episode. So weird little bit of serendipity.
Yeah.
As for McKenna, I don't know any of the work she's done. Other than I know she did the story for Cruella, which I still haven't seen.
It's good. It was delightful. It was not my Cruella.
Okay.
But, like, I like the funness. I like the imagination. This is a different human. This is a different universe for me.
Okay.
But it was good. Cinematography, great. Mwah, fits right into this vibe.
My only little bit of Cruella I vaguely remember is, like, 101 Dalmatians, like the live action as a kid.
I love the live action one. It's so good.
It's been so long since
Arthur
I've seen
Weasley and Dr. House kidnapping puppies. Hell yeah.
We had the soundtrack for that, and we listened to it a lot as a kid.
Yeah, I had the computer ROM game,
Jesus.
and I couldn't beat it because our computer would crash at the last part every time.
God damn. But McKenna was picked because she had the same vision for The Devil Wears Prada as Frankel did. On top of that, she was the first woman to work on the script and had a similar backstory to the main character, Andy Sachs.
You can feel it. You can feel it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She also found that writing a female protagonist whose story didn't center around a relationship to be liberating.
I fully agree.
Yeah, she called it a Faust story, a Wall Street for ladies, which Wall Street's a 1987 film, which I haven't seen either.
You would like Wall Street.
Would I?
You would like Wall Street, especially with the new resurgence in, like, the idea of Wall Street.
Like Wolf of Wall Street?
Very similar vibes.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll pick that up when the Arrow version of Wolf of Wall Street drops.
Yes.
They announced it like yesterday, and it looks very nice.
I agree.
Yeah. But also, it's her vision for this was growing through work.
I can see how the theme is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But part of the delight of this movie is that you can take away a lot of different perspectives.
Very much so. This movie has a little bit more depth than I think a lot of the standard rom-coms have, so that's why it sticks a bit more.
I would agree.
It stars Anne Hathaway, Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. I'm sure there are people who would like that, but not this movie.
And Stanley Tucci.
Should be known that this is Anne Hathaway's breakout role from being things that weren't for children. This was her first, like, adult role.
No.
Well, not like her as an adult, but, like, this movie wasn't aimed at young audiences.
Okay, so Yes, you're correct. To a point. Streep was an icon to begin with
Oh,
at
of course.
this point.
She was born an icon. I'm pretty sure she came out the womb and they were like, ah, yes, Meryl Streep.
Yeah, but before this, Hathaway had only been in The Princess Diaries, Ella Enchanted, and she was the voice of Haru in The Cat Returns.
All delightful, but for kids.
This was her second mature movie, as she was in Brokeback Mountain.
We will forget that, because that's not who that movie was about.
I will not forget it.
I purposefully do, because that movie was about two delightful cowboy husbands.
You guys see your bosoms in Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, I'm not here for the bosoms in Brokeback Mountain. And neither were the men.
No, but it was still a nice moment.
Yes.
But yes, this is her first main role.
Yes.
Away from teen comedies. Yeah. As for Tucci, he's been iconic in so many roles in his own right, too.
Yeah. He's one of those faces that, like, at this point, he's just playing himself, it feels.
I think he's got like 200 credits on IMDb or something at this point.
He is well-versed, and he looks similar in all of his movies, I feel.
It's kind of hard not to when you're bald, though.
That is true.
Charlie,
that is very true.
Shush, it is the morning.
He's so hungry.
And so before we get into it, Chris, what are we drinking today?
Only the highest quality City Tap water.
City Tap water. Cheers.
Cheers. Tastes significantly better than New York City Tap water.
Moisturize me.
Similar, different movie.
Yes, show.
At this point, just one really long movie.
Yeah, Doctor Who is, that's another rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
And so, The Devil Wears Prada. We open on our main character, Andy Sachs, portrayed by Anne Hathaway, as she gets ready, and we get shots of New York City and many lovely ladies getting dressed as the credits roll.
Yes, and also a surprising number of people almost getting run the fuck over by cars.
Yes.
No one looks both ways in this movie. God damn it.
Why? It's New York.
Okay, they play up the New York, like living in New York being like both hard but glamorous.
Yes.
Really hard in this movie, and I kind of like it. Like, it's normally cliche. Like, we've talked about this before, how like New York is usually like the stupid backdrop setting. I think the idea, like the fantasy version of New York that this movie tries to go with is really good.
Yeah, I think this is like the third or fourth movie now we've talked about that's set in New York.
At this point in American cinema, though, you really only had two places you could be set. You could be in California, or you were in New York. And if you were in California, the world was going to end, and you were going to go into the ocean.
Or it's a Western and you're in the Midwest. But mainly
But that's
Arizona.
not a real... I was going to say, that's not even the real Midwest. It's just fantasy desert.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that... My parents give me shit because I thought Arkansas was going to be cactuses and...
It's okay. That's like our family's favorite game is watching documentaries from Not America, like showing the Midwest. We found one that had mountains in Kansas. We live in Kansas.
Yeah, I know.
There is not a mountain.
I mean, technically we're in the foothills of the mountains.
We are not in Kansas.
No.
We are in Arkansas, where there are kind of technically mountains. There is barely a hill in Kansas.
Yeah.
There are no mountains.
But this intro is very good in contrasting Andy with the rest of the fashion industry before she's even in it.
And like it does a good job of portraying Andy like from the get-go within the first few minutes of the film as like not even like she's a bumbling idiot, just like a normal ass person.
Yeah.
Which really helps set the tone for this movie. Because you don't feel like, she should have known.
Yeah, it's supposed to set her up to be one of us kind of things.
Exactly, which I think works really well at the beginning because with these sorts of movies, it's really easy to forget like normal ass people don't live this life.
Yeah, where it doesn't show her it doesn't really show her getting into her underwear, but it shows all these other women and...
Yeah, like they think about this from every aspect. Yeah,
and also like to the point where it's like the way they're putting it on feels very model-esque and very...
And almost like ritualistic.
Yes.
Yeah, like there is... Like they picked this outfit out like a month ago.
Yeah, they're not wearing granny panties. They're wearing very lacy, very date night undies.
Yes, to work.
Yes.
What the hell? I work in my pajamas.
I do too. But also I like in it setting it up that the models are rationing out almonds and taking taxis while Andy's eating a bagel and taking the subway.
Please note, though, this is 2006. The absolute height of the stupid diet culture has hit America. Like, this is the point where, like, people legitimately were thinking, like, oh, a glass of orange juice and an onion, that's a good breakfast.
In a different way, too, because the peak really was in the 90s.
Oh, no, the really, like, the ones where we were like, oh yeah, that's very unhealthy.
Yeah.
This was the point where we knew that you couldn't live off water and air. You couldn't be a breatharian. But you could count every single calorie that you breathed into your body.
Yes.
That's this point in American dieting.
Yeah.
And we also had a weird fascination with models at this point, too. There was several TV shows that, like, showed off the glamorous. Like, that was, like, not, I wouldn't say height, because it's still riding that high.
Yeah.
But, like, this was the point in America daytime TV show that, like, the idea of models having it hard really, like, was in people's heads.
Okay.
So like there was some background to the American psyche of like, oh yeah, they're counting almonds, that's normal.
I think we need to remind the audience that you are much more into fashion than I am, and I have zero fashion sense.
But that's part of the reason I love this, is because I like street fashion.
Yeah.
Which is usually like the wild, wild west of fashion. Like, there's rules, there's people who are influential in it, there's, you know, there's brands and things that go along with it. But it is not designer fashion.
Yes.
Where this is the world of designer fashion.
High fashion.
No,
it's not even high fashion.
No, this is just designer fashion.
Yes.
Which because I love high fashion. I think it's hilarious that you've made an entire outfit out of snot and balloons. Mm-hmm. That's great. Yes, I would wear it. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
Like, normal fashion, like, especially early 2000s nonsense fashion. Mm-hmm. Is a weird, like, Twilight world. And I love it.
Yeah.
But I have no, like, real connection with it.
Yeah, because didn't one of the groups around here try doing a fashion show?
I was in that.
I know you guys were in it.
Yeah. Well, so that was more of the, like, high fashion. Okay. Where, like, we're in charge of, like, it was some crazy-ass costuming. Mm-hmm. Like, it was on, like, almost a drag show, like, level of over-the-topness.
Okay.
Whereas this is going for red carpet runway looks. Especially early 2000s, maybe even some 2010s to like runway looks where like it's not shocking. Mm-hmm. You're looking for the most elegant, you're looking for the most put together. At this point in fashion, like, brand name meant so much.
Frank Lloyd Wright versus Frank Gehry.
Yes.
In architecture terms.
No, but it's the exact same. It is the exact same where you're like, okay, the average person knows who they are, does not understand, like, the depth of them, but it doesn't matter because to, like, the average person, it's the name that you're buying. Mm-hmm. That's the world that this movie is setting up from the get-go. Like, from the instance where, like, these models are not just, like, enjoying the fashion. These office workers, even, are not just enjoying this fashion, they are centering their lives.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, they are centering every aspect of themselves around this fashion.
Yeah.
And not just in, like, the I like goth way.
Yeah, and I guess to the extremes, like, I'm sure you've seen the TikToks of the very pretty, I think it takes, I can't remember if it's in Korea, but it's always the same, like, 4 women wearing, like, the same dress walking down the street. It's like that compared to, and I have through you and through some weird movies I've watched, I have some inklings of fashion.
It's a good way to get started, honestly.
But I also kind of forgot that Gothic Lolita is actually also a fashion trend.
It is a separate fashion trend from both Gothic and Lolita.
Yes.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
I also kind of forgot, and it got brought back into my consciousness from a movie I watched last night, that Japan has a weird subgenre of fashion that's obsessed with Nazi fashion.
Yeah, we try not to encourage that.
Yeah, no. It's one of those weird things that just pops up every now and then. And
yeah, but like that's the that's the weird part of this movie with fashion, is like this movie knew it's not just its target audience, but like knew what part of fashion very specifically it was going to aim itself at, and did not even for a breath break from it. No. And that helps so much because no one in this office, even the new girl who arguably knows very little about fashion, some might say none,
Well,
even she gets indoctrinated into like this specific fashion the moment she walks into the office.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say real quick. I think that the difference between Andy and everyone else is one, Andy is dressed well.
No, yeah, she looks fine. She's just not fashioned.
She's dressed old school professional and not fashionably.
Yes, she made the mistake of wearing business professional to an office that was a runway show.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And this was also a way of setting it up of when it's contrasting, showing the audience what Andy needs to be doing to succeed in the industry rather than what she is currently doing.
Yes.
So it's not only just comparing her to what everyone else is doing, it's informing the audience of like, hey, there's a lot more to this than just looking good.
And I think because they took the time to do that from the beginning, that's what makes this movie stand apart from your normal, like, fashionable style comedy or rom-com or even just drama.
Yeah.
Because from the get-go, this movie's, like, admitting and addressing the fact that, like, it's not just what you wear. It's, like, how you wear it, how you, like, build your life around it, how you make sure you can maintain it, like, what everyone else is going to be doing that day.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing.
Okay.
It has to be, like, thought of from the moment you wake up.
Yeah, and that's why there's a lot of people who, especially these high-tech or these high-end men in, like, companies and stuff who wear the same gray polo or the same gray V-neck shirt.
The black turtleneck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
To an extent. And then there's others who are like, no, I just wear the same thing because I can't be bothered.
Branding.
That also helps.
Yeah. Also, it's important to note that there are going to be a lot of shots and montages that we'll bring up because the director wanted to have as much of New York in this movie as he could. Which
This movie is very New York.
Yes.
It is so New York.
Yeah.
It's almost an advertisement to go to New York.
Yeah, and I wonder how many people it really influenced to do that.
I honestly think that, like, there is definitely a little bit of a wave, both this movie riding that wave and also helping push it, of, like, the romanticizing of New York.
Yeah.
Because, like, it does address some parts of, like, oh, well, our main character, she's having to ride the bus or the subway. Like, she's not living in the glam apartment, but her apartment's not that bad.
No, it's much more upscale than
what she would actually be living in. Especially nowadays.
Yeah, nowadays I can't imagine
living in a trash can behind the building
for $500
with roommates.
Yes. But now we arrive at the magazine office runway for an interview.
Yes.
We're immediately met with opposition by the first assistant, Emily, who is portrayed by Emily Blunt.
Yeah, you know?
And it is very clear that this is going to be a fish out of water story, as Andy is completely out of her element.
She is so different while also being the most normal person in the building.
Yes. Very, very much so. To a point. I mean...
she is still a little bit playing the teenage portions of the Anne Hathaway, like, comic, where, like, there are parts where you can tell we have stepped off of that acting style, but there are still some moments in this Fish Out of Water where it feels Princess Diaries-y.
Yeah.
Like, she hasn't fully, like, encompassed her adult acting yet.
Yeah, and I think I have written, like, some nod to, like, Ugly Betty down the line, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's very much so that...
Like, she definitely did a great job stepping out of those roles.
Yeah.
But she still had, like, it was not a 180 transformation.
Yeah, it's still in that era that we still have of, the ugly, and I use air quotes, ugly
it's
girl.
Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, which... She has a very Winona Ryder feel to her.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean...
Not conventional, like, not the model beautiful, but, like, beautiful nonetheless.
Yeah, beautiful nonetheless, even in Princess Diaries with her hair done up like a moose, very pretty moose.
Yeah.
Still cute. Still could make it work if she wanted.
Didn't go full Ugly Betty with the nerdy glasses and braces.
No, but even then, still not the worst.
No.
Still cute.
Yeah. Intentionally disheveled.
Yes.
But also everything is just completely in chaos for her.
Yes.
Because everything's so fast paced. I think because we learned through this that she's also, this is kind of like her last attempt. Yeah. At the industry, because she's been wanting to be a journalist.
And this is kind of where the movie takes an interesting turn of like, there's being a journalist and then there's being a specific type of journalist. Mm-hmm. And this movie makes a little bit of effort into that world, but it spends a lot of time focused on the specific fashion craziness of it, that it kind of goes, oh no, journalism. Yeah.
And also just the amount of work and people surrounding a quote-unquote visionary that it actually takes to get stuff to work. Like, we and I think we see this a lot in our industry as well.
Everywhere, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Especially, like, the whole mythicizing of the architect as this genius, where it's like...
Maybe they are.
Yeah.
But they also are not drawing their own drawings.
No, not at all. Well, to a point. In the old days, they probably were.
To some extent.
Yeah, and especially like the industry we work in, commercial architecture, where everything has a brand and a look that they want, that we have a very big guideline to go off of.
Yeah, you can't just be making your own shit up.
Exactly. But also, in any of that, still, you have the builders, you have the permitters, you have the inspectors. Like,
there's a full-ass team behind all of this.
Exactly. Not only including especially nowadays, since architects don't really do any of the engineering anymore, we're just more so the manager.
Don't tell the glam architects that. They do it all.
To be fair, some of them do.
Some of them do. It is a rare bird, though.
Nowadays, just because engineering is a big endeavor.
We have squished enough people that it needs to be a big deal.
Yes. But we also have everything thrown even more into chaos as the editor-in-chief is arriving a little bit too early.
And of course, the entire office goes into a whirlwind.
Yes.
Because this is the center of the movie.
Yes. And we get a brief introduction to Nigel, who's portrayed by Stanley Tucci, who's like, just, who is this? Like, why the hell is she here, kind of thing.
He's playing the exact same role he plays in most movies.
Yep. And in strides Miranda Priestley, portrayed by Streep, who I love her presence as she comes into everything, because she is very much she's the embodiment of, for lack of a better term, she has that big dick energy.
She's the boss babe before boss babe was a term.
Yeah. Everyone moves out of the way. There's
People
a model
are handling her shit.
Yeah,
from the get-go.
Yeah, there's a model who's about to get onto the elevator who moves out of the way, so that way she's not imposing her of having to take a stop on a floor that she doesn't have to.
The world revolves around this woman.
Yes.
And she knows it.
Yeah, and I think Streep did say she based her role off of other men around, like other stereotypical businessmen like that.
Yes. Yeah, she did. And there were a handful of rumors floating around of who exactly Meryl Streep's character was meant to be in the industry. And it caused enough of a wave where in the fashion industry, a lot of big designers and lines lent their products to be in the movie. So there's a lot of actual fashion dresses, there's a lot of actual pieces shown off in the movie, but none of the actual people wanted any cameos or names put in the movie, just in case they were right.
Okay. Well, they're being able to use those outfits, that's a different reason that I have written down later.
Yes.
But yeah, I can see that of not like wanting to have like something specifically tied to it. Like even having the Devil Wears Prada
was a stretch, but at the same time it worked out because like there wasn't really a lot of like focus on Prada. They were just running with the idea that people knew Prada. Yeah. Not necessarily that like we were with Prada.
Exactly.
Yeah. This movie hit a little bit close to home for some people, apparently.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that at the in the reception portion of this episode. But also, I love in this moment just how even more confused Andy is.
Yeah, like it was chaos when she got here.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that was the slow part of the morning.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, like, there were some moments, too, where I think I saw... Because everyone's in a rush to make everything look nice, presentable, like picture perfect.
Yeah.
Even though it is chaos around everything. I've been in this case where one of our signers came over and looked at my desk and he's like, your desk is a fire hazard. And then walked away. It's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, maybe.
But also there was a part where I'm pretty sure I saw someone tossing a salad bowl.
Yes.
That had a shit ton of croutons in it.
They plucked the croutons out of a different salad bowl.
Yes.
And put them all in one so that she wouldn't see them.
Or no. I think it was more so that everyone in this industry is watching their carbs. So.
Yes, there's like a bowl of croutons that no one's gonna eat.
Yes. But yeah, also, Priestley comes across as very demanding and bitchy.
Oh, yeah, bitchy. Yo, but like, she's meant to.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, it's boss dicky, where you're like, okay, yes, that was a dick move, but also you run everyone's life here. Mm-hmm. So what would you like, madame?
Yes, exactly. Big dick energy.
Very much.
But Andy is, initially, Emily's trying to prevent Andy from going into the interview, but the reason Andy even gets the interview is because Emily's screening process hasn't worked to begin with.
Yeah, whoops.
And Andy is so upbeat and open about her situation, which definitely makes her more sympathetic. This is where you learn that she wants to be a journalist, she wants to do hard-hitting stuff.
So she's in fashion.
Yes, and is in like a temp agency center here.
Oops.
Yeah. Which also, I do like that there is something to be appreciated with Priestley's openness and bluntness about how the industry works and what she's about to enter.
Yeah, no, I like you said earlier, there is a lot of bitchy energy happening in this office. But at no point does anyone lie to her.
No.
They're like, you've just witnessed what happens when I walk in the door. Mm-hmm. You sure you want to work here?
Yeah.
If you do, I make your career amazing.
Yeah, she even says something along the lines of, or she says, you clearly have no fashion sense. And Annie tries to correct her, and she's like, no, that wasn't a question.
No, yeah. She's like, no, you look like you rolled out of a Gap. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of a little bit of fashion trivia on this, one,
trivia.
Emily's makeup changes for every outfit she wears.
Of course it does.
Yeah. Also, Streep's fashion is styled a bit differently than the rest, and her makeup and costuming is vintage styles, and it's not specifically like one era. It's always a mashup of something different.
And it's a mashup that is very specifically chosen to provide big dick energy.
Okay.
Because all of her fashion choices are always feminine, but they all hold a power pose to them.
Yeah.
That don't work in like I wore a low-cut V-neck.
Yeah.
They're all like shoulder pads or strong back required.
Yeah, it's not pantsuits or the power suit look.
No, she's not picking, like no one is picking her outfits for her. Mm-mm. She is picking these herself.
Yes. And as I mentioned, this starts off with a very Princess Diaries Ugly Betty.
Yeah, a little bit.
But it takes itself more seriously, and the comedy, I feel, is a bit wittier and...
Oh, yes. And
it's more in quips instead of gimmicks of...
Yes, there's a lot less, like, visual gags to run with, and a lot more of, like, wow... How is the new girl so slow? Mm-hmm.
Also, I do want to say, for me, at least in movies, this is probably the first one I've seen from this era where someone went with a specifically white wig, despite generally that coming off as either you're trying too hard artsy or you're old.
Yes.
But Streep wanted to do this because she didn't want her normally blonde hair to feel like a suburban soccer mom.
And you know what? This is part of the brilliance of having Streep on this movie, is because by this point, she has enough contacts and interactions with this actual portion of the world
Mm-hmm.
to know how to, like, blend in.
Okay.
And so there was a lot of, while she said that there's not, like, one person specifically she was trying to be for this role, she definitely was, there was definitely enough live people that others saw the references for, that they were like, oh, the white wig could be so-and-so. The power suit on top and dress on bottom, that could be this person. That's kind of their style.
Okay.
Like, this was Meryl Streep bringing to the table a little bit of knowledge and like, oh, no, someone like this isn't wearing a different brand. They are, like, composing their own pieces.
Okay.
Not necessarily their own brand, but, like, they are hand selecting each piece to put together. She's gonna have a statement hair that, like, that's what she looks like all the time. Kind of like how we have the architect glasses.
Yeah.
Or like the architect haircut, which is usually bald.
Architects don't wear suits. Or no, don't wear colors. That's the thing.
Architects don't usually wear ties. We're more of a bow tie people. If you're going to be wearing one at all.
Yeah. I mean,
we're a lot of shirt and jacket, not the full suit.
Yeah, and I think that comes from a lot of the old school days of, like, actually leaning over papers and drawing and not
This is a similar where Meryl Streep knew enough about the past versions of history to know where this character should be.
Yeah, it's like having roll-up cuffs where it was from the days of the doctor surgeon, and so that way they could still dress nicely but also be able to get up in guts and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
See, I know a little bit. Tidbits here and there.
It all, like, runs snowballs together, and, like, while they are not the same, they all parallel each other.
Yeah.
Just in a very different way.
But Andy seems like she knows she's out of place, and so she decides to, well, I'm just gonna leave, because Streep moves on to doing whatever she has to do next.
Like you do.
And as she's leaving the building, Emily comes down and she's like, fuck, you got the job, come on, let's go back up.
She's bored and would like entertainment for the next month, let's do this.
And cuts to night where none of Andy's friends believe that she got the job.
What supportive friends she has.
Which I'll introduce them, as they do have somewhat rather minor roles.
Especially boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean...
The only reason I bring him up is years after, almost like 10 years after, there is now a running fan theory of who the real bad guy of this movie is. Surprise, it's him. And when we get to him, okay. I will go into more.
Okay, we'll get into that. But Lily is portrayed by Tracy Thomas, and Doug is portrayed by Rich Sommer.
Yep.
I only know Tracy through Death Proof and Summer from Summer of '84.
That's okay. They're in movies. I don't think you've seen most of them.
Nope. And that's for the same as the boyfriend Nate, who is portrayed by Adrian Greener, who I know is in Entourage, but I've never seen it, and everyone who's seen it says it's something I should watch because it's based around the film industry.
Yes, but I also don't think it's quite your cup of tea.
Probably not. Probably not. But from here we cut to the morning where Andy is sent to work at 6:15 a.m.
Ooh, it's early.
Yeah.
But, like, also journalism, so, like, I would assume you're used to early, right? Like, press has got to run? Something like that? I don't know. I don't know how journalism works.
I'm in the office by 7 or at my desk by 7 normally, so...
I work from home, so it's whenever I roll out of bed, really.
6 to 7 for me as
well.
But she's told to grab Starbucks on her way.
And how dare she not already know the order?
Nope, she's fucking it up day one because she's running late.
You cannot run late. In fact, you should be early to everything.
Yep. Told the rope to man the desk at all times, and she's only allowed to use the bathroom when Emily is not.
You know, if you're the front desk person, I can understand that to an extent.
Yeah. Also, we know this is a very fancy office because they have a full kitchen off to the side.
And it's not just a toaster.
No, the toaster or microwave. They have a full range stove. It looks like an oven.
Yep.
Because it also has a hood, and so it's like...
But also, Does any of the people in this office look like they cook their lunch here?
No.
No, of course they do not. They all eat a salad.
No, or they order out because that's what it looks like to be fashionable. Like, if I'm going to eat out, I'm going to eat out from a very specific restaurant.
Yep, and you have your order that matches somebody else.
Well, and on top of that, it's not in a break room. It's right off of the secretary's office for Priestley.
It does kind of feel like maybe it was... Because, like, I've seen this before touring fancy offices as, like... Because when you're an architect student, you can throw the, "Hi, I'm an architect student, can I come see your building?" card around. And you get to go into a lot of places that normally you would not be given a tour.
Oh, yeah. I got given shit when I was in North Carolina visiting Rick. We went to a very Art Deco building.
Yep.
And I'm like, I gotta take pictures of the ceiling. And they're like, "What are you doing?"
The architect.
Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah, we went into multiple buildings in Chicago that I guarantee you do not normally give tours.
Yep.
But they were delighted to have us. And so from that experience, this very much feels like maybe once a month they have a professional chef come in and cater a lunch. And instead of being catered like what we're used to, where Chipotle brings us some chicken and rice, this is like a chef who cooks a meal and everyone snacks a little bit on it. And it's like part of a press thing. And maybe there's pictures being taken. Like, look, our office is great to work for sort of thing.
Yeah, because we do have lunchtime down the line.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we know this is a small portion of it.
Yeah, like this is, for me, part of why this movie works better than just like, oh, it's not just set in New York. It is set in like a realistic feel.
Here's what it is too. If Streep is gonna eat in, she's not gonna eat with the rabble. She's gonna have her kitchen where she'll heat up her capo noodles.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
But we also really understand how demanding Streep is of her time.
It is intense.
We also get a little bit of little things here with Emily where precursor to her love of Paris, where her screensaver is the Eiffel Tower.
Cute.
Whereas
Corny.
Andy's is just like the default screensaver.
It's just the rolling hills of California.
To be fair, it's her first day and she's just logging in.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you log in ahead of time to pre-save your screensaver?
Oh, yeah. And she is, we also get this little bit of kind of setting the goal of the movie, or part of the goal of her being good at her job, where we're told about the book.
The book.
Which is the goal for acceptance. If you are asked to deliver the book, you are being accepted into her life.
Yes.
And not even into her life, you're being accepted professionally.
Like, at that point, you are no longer, like, the stupid intern. You are now, like, an actual employee. But not payroll-wise, just, like, treatment-wise.
Yeah, you're assistant to the regional manager.
Yes. You're second branch assistant at that point.
Yes. Because also, in comes Nigel, who gives her shoes.
Telling her, this, whatever you're wearing, stop.
Yes.
Never wear this again.
Well, not even that. I think he's just trying to, like, give her the hint of, like, hey, you need to glam up a little bit.
Okay, and I will give him this, and I think this is part of the reason why this movie works on top of all the other reasons that I have harped on already, is while this office is full of bitches, they are all bitches who are kind of nice.
Yeah.
Like, he is being a bitch the entire movie. But while he is being a bitch, he's, like, helping her.
Yeah, basically how it is they're giving them the tools, or giving Andy the tools.
But she still has to do it herself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Andy is called by her wrong name by Miranda. And is, there was something the director put in specifically for a lot of these. He said there are a lot of tilt shots. One, to go over the fashion.
Which is, I mean, it is hard to have a fashion-based movie and not show the full outfit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also it allowed him to, like, focus on the first thing that Priestley looks at, which was the shoes.
Which, honestly, especially in a walking city like New York, we see the other girls only wear heels. They don't have, like, a change of shoes for, like, when they're out traveling, which is, I think, probably the more, like, logical thing to do.
Probably why they take taxis, too.
Yeah, because ain't nobody gonna stand in the subway in 6-inch heels.
Yep.
unless you bring change of shoes, but this office is not a change of shoes sort of office. You're supposed to
No.
look good everywhere you go, because it's that mindset, like architects do this too, of the like, well, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know when you're going to run into that next big client or that next big architect. I know so many people in our industry who like have this mindset, and like it's not a bad mindset, but like that's the mindset of this office. That's why everyone wears high heels, even if they're on the subway, even if they're walking to go get their bagel. Like, yeah,
it's
at no point are they ever going to not be presentable.
It kind of makes me think a little bit of Pretty Woman.
Yes.
Just a bit, where it's like...
It's, I think, very much based in that mindset. Like, this is leftover mindset of, like, you never know who's watching.
Yeah. Which, I mean, yeah, to an extent, too.
I am Midwest garbage and do not give a shit. But I see how in, like, especially New York, where, like, yes, it's a huge city, but also, like, you're gonna stand out if you're wearing... whatever it is these office people are wearing. Yeah. To go get your coffee at the same stop every day, same order.
It's like watching in movies with the Back to Wall Street, any of like the stock exchange people leaving, where they got their suit, their tie, they're all clean looking, completely shaven. Yeah. Kind of crew cut hairdo.
They all look like they've been baby powdered to an inch of their life.
American Psycho.
Yes. A very good example.
Branding.
Yes. No, that's what it is though. And like, I get it. But like, this movie is like showing off, like, this is the movie that like people who are into this sort of mindset lean to be like, but look, if she had been better prepared, she can do this whole movie. Yeah. And they're not wrong. It's just a different industry. It's a different path.
Yeah, and I know when I interviewed with some other architecture firms that were very old school, they're like, yeah, we're suit and tie, we're 8 to 6 hours.
Friday is still no tie, but you're still wearing the suit. Yeah. That's the casual part of Friday.
Yeah, we work at a very progressive firm.
We work at, bless them, I love them immensely. Yes, we are incredibly progressive for our field. Yeah.
But Andy is sent on errands, and she scurries back to her desk to put on the shoes that
she
Nigel
cannot walk in at all.
Yes.
In fact, there's a lot of really great blooper scenes of her falling over in said heels.
I don't know how women do it.
A lot of practice.
I know.
And also, like, depending on who you are, because, like, I have some friends who are very Italian ladies. Like, still live in Italy Italian. And, like, they're like, I don't understand how you wear shoes, like, flats places. My feet would hurt. I've been wearing heels since I was 6.
Well, and also, I know there is a very specific way, like, walking in heels actually is, like...
It is a different step.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Because we have some people in our office who full-on play basketball games in their heels.
Yeah.
Competitive basketball games in their heels.
And they can do it because that's what they do on a daily basis.
That's all they wear, yeah. One of them was like, 6 months pregnant and still wearing her high heels to go play basketball?
I have no clue.
Bless her.
I wear a shoe with like a little bit of like the man's heel where it's just slightly up. I wear shoes
because they will not let me into McDonald's without them.
Well, no, if I wear one of those, it just puts me off a little bit.
Yeah. Like, I can wear heels. Like, I am fully capable of running in heels. I've lived enough life of having to wear heels that I can do it. But I mostly wear shoes because they will kick me out of Walmart without them.
Yes. So... Exactly. But we're on to the errand montage where it's fast-paced, sink or swim.
Oh, man. But honestly, like, this movie does a good job of showing, like, oh yeah, like, this is incredibly fast-paced. Like, the amount of tasks she gets handed in this quote-unquote first day, unreal. But she does them. Yeah. Like, she is not sinking. She's not thriving.
No.
But she is actually doing better than she thinks.
Yeah, better than she thinks, and I think better than the others expect.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because now it's time for lunch. And Nigel continues to be dickish with his advice, but
like he is trying to help. He's just being an ass.
Yeah, because she gets like the corn chowder or something. And
she gets like milk soup.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, daring are we today?"
Because everyone else in this office is eating a single leaf and a grape.
Yeah, no one's touching any of the carbs besides Andy.
Yeah. Like, she's the only quote-unquote normal. And didn't he berate her earlier, too, on the same day for eating an onion bagel?
The first day. Because that was when he steps in, he's like, did someone eat onions?
No, not even onions. An onion bagel. This man can pinpoint the scent of an onion bagel, which, I mean, feels New Yorkie.
Yeah, very much so. And Andy says she won't change for her job.
You know, I think that's a valid point.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have the rest of this movie to watch.
Yes, and we also get the big portion, or the running line in this: 1 million girls would kill for this job.
Which, have we not all heard that before? You are replaceable.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And that's, again, that sink or swim mentality of...
And I think it's part of the reason why this movie continues to be relatable, is like, the sink or swim mentality has just gotten worse.
Well, and on top of that, it's putting the work forward over yourself.
Yes. And like, while I think modern day, because we've come a long way since 2006, we haven't come that far. Because everyone will admit that, like, work-life balance is important. You should be wary of burnout. But also, can you please put in 56 hours this week?
My last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, I think that's part of the reason why, like, from the get-go, this movie hooks you. Because, like, you want to have the same mindset as Andy. But you live in this other world, even if it's not fashion. Like, everyone can relate to this somehow.
Yeah, in one way or another.
Yeah,
We've all been there.
Yeah, it might not be fashion. It might be construction. It might be, graphic design. It could be fast food. But, like, the concept is the same.
Yeah, might be trying to run a side hustle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But now dinner's or lunch is interrupted, and she and Nigel have to drop their lunch because it's time for the run through, and they're doing it a week early. Sorry, not a week early. They're doing it an hour early.
Which, as anyone with a deadline will tell you, how dare.
Mm-hmm.
I had another hour to work on this.
Yes. Which I think this is probably one of the best parts in it, and probably the best advice in this movie, especially for anyone trying to advance their career.
There is a lot of good advice in this movie.
Where Nigel brings her into the room, or before they even enter the room, he just tells her, stand, watch, and listen. Yes.
Just observe, don't try and input, this is your first go.
Yes. And it's also that mentality of wanting everything done yesterday.
Which, I mean, has been the concept since dawn of time.
Yes. And I think Andy makes like a little giggle at Priestley asking which belt would work better.
Yeah.
And this is when she is heavily put in her place in a very, very intelligent way. Mm-hmm. And it's very much so, it's not meant to be like the day one boss from hell.
Yeah.
It's showing that it's showing the experience that Priestley has and the deep knowledge she has of the industry.
Yes.
But it's also being respectful of the industry, not poking fun at it.
Yeah, it is at no point trying to make the fashion industry the bad guy.
No.
Which is interesting because you could argue that that's kind of how the movie's supposed to go.
Well, and even then, the term of antagonist is loose, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Because traditionally the antagonist is trying to stop the protagonist, but in this movie...
She's trying to progress her career.
She's trying to progress her career in an uphill battle, not against someone who's trying to stop it, but just someone who is...
It feels very much like the Trials of Hercules.
Yes.
Where, if you can make this, you will become great.
Yeah, exactly. And that comes down later on in the movie, too.
Yeah.
But this is the scene specifically for me where it really set the tone of the movie overall. Not even...
Okay.
Because it felt less... From here on, it feels less comedic than the intro to the movie.
Yes, I would agree that the intro is the most standard comedy.
And there are some more comedic bits, but it's not in the same regards as this.
Without ever losing its lightness, almost.
Mm-hmm.
At no point does this movie take a dark, sad turn.
Yes.
This movie always holds on to that light writing style.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we lose the direct punchlines.
Yes. And also I think it also makes the movie more relatable. Instead of looking at this design of it's this designer who's ahead of her time, she knows everything. No, it's breaking down how fashion works, of
exactly
how it gets from the high-end fashion, why high-end fashion matters to the consumer down the line.
Exactly, yeah. It is a very informative movie while maintaining that it is not just about fashion.
Exactly. And for me, the only difference I could tell on the belt was the buckle.
Yeah. I mean, they're different brands, but that's the whole point of this movie.
Yeah.
Is like the average person, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
Your average workplace, it doesn't matter. It only matters in this world.
Yeah, because, I mean, and that's the thing, too. It's like creating a composition in general.
Mm-hmm.
I can throw anything together and call it art.
Yeah.
Does it make it good? Is it a good composition? Does it read well? No, but it's still technically a composition.
And even then, even if it's a bad composition, if it's at a specific target, if it's at a specific audience, and they like it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also I think it's now time to talk a little bit about the costume designer Patricia Field.
Who had her work cut out for her.
Yes. She got her big break in costuming after Sex and the City.
Which makes a lot of sense. There is a lot of overlap.
But she would go on to do a bunch of other stuff, including Ugly Betty.
You know.
The Girl on the Train, and Go La La Go.
I'm not familiar with Go La La Go.
I do not know it at all either, but that's what IMDb said she's known for.
I know the other ones.
Well, in the book I have on like the history of fashion, it's not even a history of fashion. It's just like an encyclopedia of Hollywood fashion icons.
Which is similar, yeah.
Which Street Hathaway and Field are all in that book.
All of them have very distinct styles, yes.
Yeah. She also had a history of working with Frankel. Mm-hmm. She had gone through all kinds of ways to get through the clothing for the movie. They loaned it, they bought it, they rented it.
They tried hard to get real pieces for this.
Yes. But this was helped out because she had been in the industry for so long and she had relationships and experience that she could just be like, hey,
do you want your piece in this?
Exactly.
Yeah. And like, if you call the right person, unfortunately, this movie is made by itself.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, what I think is most impressive about this movie is that she wasn't designing about what was popular while the film was being made. She was planning the outfits for what was expected or what she expected to be popular 9 months from that time.
Which is an interesting thing that you brought up, because that is one of the things people have gone back, especially 10, 20 years later from this movie, is that the fashion in this, for the most part, is fairly classical. Mm-hmm. Granted, it is of its time. It is of early 2000s.
As an ever-changing industry is.
Yeah, especially with an industry focused on the fast-paced fashion. Mm-hmm. However, all of the pieces, for the most part, there's a couple of background pieces that, like, really scream early 2000s. But for the most part, most of the fashion choices are tame. They are based off of classical looks. They are based off of bigger pieces, which helps lend some credibility to this, like, fake fashion magazine.
Okay.
And this lady who is supposed to be, like, ahead of her time in fashion, running an organization full of people who all want to be her. So, without pulling anything that was too recognizable to the mainstream people, without pulling anything that was, like, clearly fashionable right now, with the exception of, like, the quote-unquote daytime wear that Andy has, which, like, looks like she rolled out of an early 2000s Gap, or Old Navy, which is kind of the point.
JCPenney's a bit.
Yeah, the shoes.
I was gonna say her, sweater, like...
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, layered early 2000s looks going on, that because of that, it is not easy to pinpoint as, like, oh, this is all coming from, like, ugly 80s. It's not ugly 70s. This is, like, high fashion at its best, while being, like, quote-unquote realistic fashion, without anyone being like, oh, I saw this piece, I had to have it. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where, like, it manages to make itself, like, it attempted to be timeless, while understanding that, like, these people live in early 2000s.
Yeah, it's like, what's the movie? I talked to Laugh about this quite a bit, of, in It Follows.
Yeah.
Specifically, they chose, like, fashion and items that didn't really put it in a specific time era.
Yes. And I think that's part of the reason why Streep's character looks the way she does, is, like, all of her pieces, down to the hair color, are classical, like, high fashion.
Okay.
Like, bright red, the shoes, the hair being, like, a specific look.
You might be able to pick it out down the line, and know the references, but it's still not of that era. It's kind of an in-between.
Yeah, it's not something that, like, became fast fashion. This ended at high fashion.
Okay.
And she's just happy to wear it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on for this episode, because I have zero clue about any of this.
I know some people who are more into this style of fashion than I am, who can pick out who designed what, and, like, what brands are being represented. I can't do that. I do not give a shit about your brand name. But I do find it interesting how, like, we dress ourselves.
Yeah, here I am wearing a witchy black craft shirt that looks
I am
like
wearing
a
an
band
early
shirt.
2000s Harry Potter paraphernalia.
Vintage.
It is actually vintage.
I figured it would be.
Yeah, no, this is from the original press.
Do you remember those house shirts where it was just like the house logo and then like the checker pattern turned it was like the sun activated ones.
Yeah. I never had one of those.
I had one of those for a long time.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I remember the sun activated t-shirt days very well.
Street fashion.
In a way, like you know how like Stranger Things is bringing back like the whole like, oh, when I was a kid I wore that too sort of vibe.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, in the future, when the breed version of Stranger Thing happens in the early 90s and early 2000s, those sun activated fucking shirts, and then the ones from the fair that had your name written in like weird font, airbrush styled onto it.
We already have a little bit of that. I mean, have you seen what Oliver Tree wears?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then the tie-dye's making its way back around, which, why? It didn't look good the first time.
To be fair, what I'm seeing from like the TikTok tie-dye guys, which
yes.
I'm still not on TikTok. I refuse to get
but
it.
I will send you a TikTok, goddammit.
I know you will. But like it like there's a guy who like does these like really cool patterns and stuff.
Yeah,
and like they're elevating it past like the old school tie dye that we think of. Yeah, like I saw a dude put I think he put like a Bidoof on his shirt.
Hell yeah.
And then made it like look like it was sitting on a rainbow with like a hexagon pattern around it. And shit.
No, when the original tie dye happened, the fanciest we got was given squirt guns with tie dye juice in it, and you shot your shirt from the fence that we hung on our metal fence in the backyard. That was a party.
I have never done tie-dye, and I am
Midwest.
I am always confused by what the Midwest does.
God, the Midwest was its own, like, branding, like, of what all of this was.
Yeah.
All of us had, at some point, our name airbrushed onto a shirt, and it looked bad. It's all the same font. And, like, if you were... Yeah. You went to the fair, and you got a shirt. It was a white shirt. It was always... Or it was, like, a solid color pink or something. And they'd airbrush your name onto the shirt for you. And it was always the exact same font. People who know what I'm talking about know the font.
Is it like the military font?
No, it's like swirly. It looks like it belongs under a bridge or on a train going past you on the highway. It was almost street art font, but like more readable and less bubbly. It's like swirly, and then like they put little bedazzly sparkles on your shirt.
I wish people could see the look of confusion on my face.
Man, you missed out. Not really. This is like the same era as having that one tiger blanket that's way too fucking hot.
What?
Yeah, we all had the same tiger blanket and or horse blanket. It had one or the other on it. We don't know and even knows where we got them from.
I am baffled still.
Welcome to the Midwest.
You can have that.
Everyone still has that fucking blanket too. It's the best blanket in the house. It's too fucking hot. Give me the middle of January. It's still too hot.
All right.
No one knows where we got those blankets either. They don't just like materialized in our homes.
You know, you do you.
I don't even know why I don't like horses or tigers. But we had one.
The Midwest.
Yeah.
But back to the Devil Wears Prada.
Where none of this fashion exists.
No, because Andy is complaining to Nate about her day. And I love that, like, as she's complaining about, like, how pretentious everyone is.
Yeah.
He's made her a grilled cheese sandwich. And of everyone in the group, she surrounded herself in relatively pretentious people.
Yes. Which is kind of the, like, ironic part of this. Is, like, everyone that she associates with is not in this fashion world, but is the exact same bitchiness level.
Yeah, where it's Nate works for like some restaurant, like not a low end, but not like a family restaurant.
Yeah.
But he also like comes home making like he made her a grilled cheese sandwich with like some super fancy type of cheese that I've never heard of.
Which like, I mean, that sounds amazing, but yeah, like
it's still a grilled cheese sandwich.
Slap some Wonder Bread down, my man.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he even brings up, he's like, I make reduction sauces all day. Like, I'm pretentious too.
Yeah, like everyone is pretentious in this world, and they all just like hate the other pretentious people.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, a commentary on something, I'm sure.
Just everyone's got their head up their own asses judging everyone else.
This is true.
Yeah. And now we get another montage of coats. Andy is obviously drowning in work and demand, but we at the end of it we get that I think what it shows is she gets a phone call and she answers it right, and then
she's learning.
Yeah, she's getting it, but she's still out of place.
But she is learning so much faster than like your average new hire.
Yeah, where we get from here, she's like, because she's still focused on everything else around her, but now she's starting to focus on work more, and we see this because they're like, oh yeah, you can leave early, I've got everything, I've got the book, I'll deliver it. She's like, oh perfect, because my dad's in town from dinner, and he's from Ohio, so we're gonna go out to eat.
Yeah.
And she's wearing the same sweater as day one, but pink.
Yes.
And for the little bit that her dad has, I like him because he does have solid parenting concerns. He
feels like a real parent to an adult child.
Yep.
Which is nice, because normally the like movie portrayal of the adult parent is like, my baby needs me, or my best friend, my adult child. Yeah. Which is awkward.
Yeah, which he just hands her an envelope, and she's like, you guys are paying for my rent for this? And he's like, yeah, you said you seem like you're struggling, and it doesn't sound like she's struggling financially, but this is like, their way of like helping.
Like he's her dad. He's gonna do what he can.
Yep.
Also, fun little fact in the photo, that is actually her mom.
Oh, nice.
That is the only cameo her mother makes in this film. But because they got her to play herself in the photo, and the actor who's playing her dad, of course, is playing himself, and they couldn't find anyone to play her mom, so her mom stepped in and was like, "I'll be her mom."
I mean, why not?
Apparently her mom was did some small acting back in the day.
All right.
And they're like, "Why weren't you in the rest of the movie?" And she's like, "I didn't want to."
Yeah. And work interrupts life. Miranda is stranded in Florida for a little bit of rain.
Oh my god. Help.
Where she begins to ignore her dad, which is the start of her ignoring the rest of the people in her life.
Yeah.
And also her dad points out, like, what do you want her to do? Get the air guard? And she's like, will they do that? It's like, no.
Yeah, there's definitely a balancing act that this movie never actually accomplishes.
Yeah, and it also just shows how Miranda is clueless about how the world works around her. Like,
bless her, yeah,
expecting the weather to bend to her.
To have someone like tell the pilot to take off anyway.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because there's a little bit where she's like, oh, it's just a little bit of rain, and then you see it, and it's like, nope, no, it's hurricane rain.
It's Florida rain.
Yeah, they're not moving.
No.
And unfortunately, Andy has to deal with the consequences in the morning.
Of course.
Thinking that, she's like, well, I thought you'd be different. And
I thought you'd be a weather god.
Miranda's a preachy bitch in this.
Oh yeah, moment. But like, we all know a boss like that.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of the fun.
Yeah, which Andy then decides to go to complain to Nigel, who...
I mean, if you're gonna bitch to someone, that's the man to do it to.
Of the side characters, I think Nigel is the most interesting, and he gets such little screen time too, which is fine because the movie's not about Nigel, but he is very important to the rest of it because he puts her in her place by saying like, "Oh, what do you expect her to do? Kiss your feet because you're doing your job? Like, good on you." But I also like this little quick background that we get because it also shows why Nigel has taken this weird interest in the new intern because he brings up that like, while everyone was at soccer practice, he pretended to be at soccer practice when really he was at sewing classes, and he was having to read Runway underneath his magazine, hoping to move it into the one day, because it says, like, what, he grew up in some eastern town or something in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, like,
or some shit.
They give the standard, it was the Midwest / the South / not New York, and no one understood me.
Well, yeah, and
I mean, at this time period, yes.
Yeah, but when Nigel was a kid, presumably in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, probably about right.
Yeah, or potentially the 60s.
We don't really know how old Nigel's supposed to be in this movie. We just know he's been in the industry a while.
Yeah, and he himself was a fish out of water as a kid.
He sees himself a little bit in her.
I think he sees himself a lot in her, of like, there's the potential, but you have to work towards it, and you have to
decide how much you want this.
Yeah, in a way, he is kind of the mentor that she needs, that she wasn't going to get from anyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah, because now it is makeover time.
Which, honestly, while corny, is fun. Like, it shows off what was the problems of the era, what the goals of the fashion of the era were, all while, like, quote-unquote, dumbing it down for the audience. Mm-hmm. Because we technically have been shown what the goal is already. Everyone else in the office, and then your boss. Your goal is to be as fashionable as the boss, but without overdoing it.
Yes and no. Because also, the big goal is the book.
Exactly. And so we already technically know the fashion rules, but it is nice to have someone more handed to you.
Yeah, because even what she ends up with is completely different than everyone else in the office. So it makes her stand out, because on top of that, they're going through the closet of, like, the unused outfits and whatnot. Going through the beauty department. I've also realized that I know nothing about women's sizing.
You know what? As a woman who attempts to go shopping fairly regularly, neither do I.
Yeah.
It makes no goddamn sense. Welcome to the rant.
I have no clue what size 2 or size 4 even means, how big of a difference that even is.
It depends on the brand, and it depends on the year. And it also depends on the cut of the brand, because it can change within its own branding.
So it's like shoes.
No. Shoes are at least supposed to be based off of some number, and then they threw that out the window, right?
Yeah, as someone who has small feet, for a man, it is hard to find shoes that are the actual size they say they are.
Yes. So, with women's sizing, and this is a whole rant, and part of the reason it's even in this movie at all, is because this brings up some very strong feelings. So, women's sizing was, quote-unquote, standardized at some point by a man, because it was to make it easier for the dumb woman to buy clothing, because heaven forbid she know her own measurements. And we had at this point in history moved away from, like, properly tailored clothing. Things were like a standard size 1, a standard size 2, and you were supposed to fit that magically. No one did. So the way the industry works is there is a standard model somewhere out there that they pick, and that's who they decide is a size 2 for them.
Oh, fun.
And so that person, for that brand, for that cut, is the size 2. And in theory, that person should have similar measurements to a different size 2 person. However, that has all over the years kind of just been thrown right out the window. And so now you can legitimately be a size 10 in one thing, a size 6 in a different thing within the same brand, and a size 14 in a different brand.
I'm glad to be a man.
Yeah. It has become such a thing that most ladies at this point, if it has become to the point where, like, they are buying clothes regularly, a lot of higher end places will go back to proper measurements and tailoring if you're going high enough up. Or a lot of girls I know are like, fuck this shit, I'm buying my pants from the men's section where it tells me how long the inseam is.
Yeah.
And comes with pockets.
And the most recent thing we've had is the flex fit, or the flex waist.
Yeah.
I know it's like...
That's a couple decades old in the women's department.
Yeah.
We have always had flex fit because mom jeans. And, like, heaven forbid your pants not fit you.
100% that day, because, weight fluctuates a little bit.
Up to 10 pounds, like, within a week.
Yeah.
like, that can be normal depending on your body circumstance and, like, what's happening.
Water weight loss, and, like, I've lost 5 pounds in a week because of that, and it's like...
I watched Brian sneeze too hard and he dropped 10 pounds. Fuck him.
He is looking very good now, by the way.
Yeah, well, part of that was the terrible stomach bug he got. Which is the fastest way to lose weight.
Which is also brought up multiple times in this movie where Emily's like, I'm one stomach bug away from my perfect or my ideal size.
But that's how it is, yeah. Yeah, no, there's a reason that they specifically brought up the women's numbering size, even though everyone in this movie is at a price point in the fashion world where hand-tailored, no numbers would be a valid option. In fact, I bet you the boss doesn't look at number sizes. I bet you all of her stuff is hand-tailored.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, that would be the goal. But to make it for an audience who will probably never own more than maybe one piece of hand-tailored clothing, which is probably their wedding attire, you're going to go with numbers. Because that, like, there's a fire underneath women in the clothing world about this stupid fucking number system. Which, by the way, the shirt number, the pant number, and the dress number are all different as well.
Okay.
Just so you know. And those numbers do not correlate with small, medium, and large either. Which can also be in the same brand.
I now understand why
no one goes shopping?
Or, like, when you see a box bundle from, like, Blackcraft, they're like, all the t-shirt sizes are based off men's size.
Yeah, because at least then it's mildly standardized.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but more than if it was coming from our end of the world.
Just a bit more. Like we said, this makeover is jaw-dropping confidence.
Which, honestly, like, there's a lot of bad advice in this movie. But there's also some good advice. And some of the good advice is, if you dress like you're the hottest piece of shit on earth, you're gonna act like you're the hottest piece of shit on earth. And it does help. Yeah. It does help your confidence to feel like you look good.
Yeah, there is something to that. I mean, even Nate has to take a second take because he's used to her wearing the Gap sweater.
Which is not...
She has in 2 colors, at least we know.
But, like, also that's such, like, a normal person thing of, like, I know this looks good on me, I'm gonna get it in every color.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I know the fit is good, I'm gonna get 3 colors of it, I'm gonna wear just this. But not in, like, the fashionable, like, I only wear black turtlenecks. It's in the, like, I know this fits me. And no one has bitched about this cardigan yet.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, it got her a man.
It did, and it got her a job.
Yeah.
She's gonna wear this cardigan for the rest of her life. I would.
Like lucky underwear.
Yeah, you wear it until it falls apart and then you buy another exact same pair.
Yes. And now we get yet another montage of confidence of her in her new outfits, but still taking the subway. She's upgraded a little bit.
She at least now looks good on the subway.
Yeah.
And I understand the logistics of wanting to take the taxi. But this movie does bombard its own advice of, like, if you're going to dress to be seen, you meet a lot more people on the subway.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot more chance of that encounter, which is what they're all obsessed with, is that encounter.
Yeah, there's the that street fashion.
There's that random photographer or journalist who's about to make a big break. They're on the subway. There's
Midnight Meat Train.
Yeah.
A different kind of break, but...
There's that fashion designer who's here to see the city. He's on the subway.
Yeah, inspiration.
Yeah. To be seen is a huge part of this world. Hard to be seen from a taxi.
Yeah. That's once you're established.
And by then you have people following you around with cameras.
Exactly. Oh, TikTok and all that.
Paparazzi.
I like eye candy, though.
It is, I mean... It's part of the world of fashion. Like, that's... Ain't nobody wearing this around their own home.
No, God, no.
At least not in this movie.
Unless they're trying to get something out of their significant other.
At that point, though, you're not going to ruin your dress that you have to wear to work the next day.
No, not at all. And also, I do like the way this montage is set up. All these montages, I think, are set up quite well. Because it's not just like a cut here, cut here, cut here.
It feels fluid.
It's done in the same way like Del Toro did with Pan's Labyrinth, where like they're using an object to obscure the vision as it changes to like the next scene.
It makes it feel more like a time lapse than like a quick jump. Yeah,
kind of like how Notting Hill did the Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone segment, where like it's him going through the seasons.
Yeah,
in just a single walk.
It very much feels very coherent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all of this culminates in Andy finally being recognized by Miranda.
She's finally doing it, though.
She's called by name.
And not even the wrong name.
Yep. And also, she's busy, but she's given her spoils to her friends.
I mean, she's still trying to, like, hang out with the old crowd.
Yeah, and trying to, because she does she gets a call and her boyfriend keeps messing with her, trying to take the phone, and I'll answer this.
Which is the start of the argument that the boyfriend is in fact the villain.
Okay.
So, the entire basis of this argument, and now that he's started to, like, play into it, we can piece it together as the rest of the movie progresses.
Okay.
She's at a new job, which we all know new jobs are always more demanding than one you've been in for several years.
Yeah.
Right? She has joined this new job during what is considered a stressful part because they're all getting ready for this Paris bullshit. Right? So we've already got a deadline on top of it being the new job.
Mm-hmm.
She's actively interested in it. She maybe wasn't at the beginning, but like she's bothered to go out and buy new clothes for this job. Like she is putting in effort for this job that she thought was going to be just a year temp.
Andy's changed and she's found meaning in her job.
Yeah, like she is actively putting in work for this job. Has she put in healthy boundaries yet? No. But a lot of that sort of stuff usually comes a little later in the job after you're established, after you and your boss have had time to work out, like, when it is appropriate to call me.
Yeah.
And, like, when you actually need help. There's a deadline coming up. A call might be appropriate then.
Yeah.
There's no deadline coming up. Do not call me. She hasn't gotten to that point yet. Her boyfriend has put in no effort into helping her enjoy this new passion of hers. Like, she's clearly interested in the actual fashion now, not just the journalism part. He has put no effort in to helping her with this. He's made no comment on like, oh, you look nice.
Other than the first time he sees her changed.
And even then it's like oh, that's different. It's not a, hey, new passion.
Yeah.
New interest. It's just oh, you bought new clothes.
Well, no, I wouldn't even say that. I say it's very much so he has a new kind of excitement.
Yeah, but it's not in like oh, my partner has taken up a new interest.
No.
It's my partner now looks cute.
Yeah.
My partner now looks sexy. Which granted, like, that can be a different thing, but like at no point is he like trying to be like, oh, like if she had also taken up interest in embroidery, he's not putting in any effort into being excited for her new quote unquote embroidery hobby.
Yeah.
Like, and then he is actively trying to sabotage her new job with one of the highest prestigious companies that she could get, that she got on accident, which he should know about, right? He's her boyfriend.
Yeah. Well, and I also think he doesn't fully understand the level of prestige.
No, he's put in no effort.
Yeah.
Which is now the start of the argument for a lot of people saying that, like, she wants to be a career-driven woman, not the girlfriend.
Well, and here's why I don't think he's the antagonist.
Okay.
Countering that, he is the grounding for what Andy was.
True.
He's not the antagonist. Because even then, he's going based off of her saying that this is still only a temp thing. So I have a feeling that there's been conversations that it's still only going to be a temp thing. She isn't trying to make it in the industry.
Yes. And so this theory ran far and hard enough that the actor who plays him even got around to having a comment on it. And he goes, yes and no. The actor himself agrees that, like, he is not being a good boyfriend in the movie. But part of that is because she has matured to a point that he hasn't yet. Yeah. And he says when the rumor first came out, I didn't say anything because it was like right after the movie hit, and I myself hadn't matured at that point. And so I was like, no, he's trying to help hold her to a boundary. Mm-hmm. And he goes, now that I've matured and I've lived that life and I have a significant other who's also in like an industry that is fast paced and like doing stuff. Yeah. I have since matured enough to realize that, like, it is both. He is both the bad guy and also not. He's trying to help her have a boundary. He's not doing it helpfully. He's not doing it constructively, which is just not productive.
No. I get the point where you're like, I wouldn't, the thing is, I don't think he's actively trying to sabotage. I think he's trying to be funny and be the fun boyfriend in a serious situation when it doesn't call for it.
She has moved past the need of a cute college boyfriend and is now looking for someone who can, like, support her in her adult role.
Exactly. And her friends aren't doing the same either. Her friends are very much in on, let's fuck around with the phone.
Yeah. You can tell though some of the friends, especially towards the end of the movie, are also in the same boat as her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're also trying to breach out from just doing the line chef stuff to, like, maybe working in a Michelin star restaurant one day.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And he's the one person in the friend group who's still stuck in the goofy college phase.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all at different levels of maturity.
Yeah.
And because of this call, Andy is sent off to a pretentious party, which...
I mean...
desperate need for hard liquor.
Understandable.
Yeah, where she meets Christian Thompson, who's portrayed by Simon Baker, who is better known for...
yes, he is.
He's the... I forget his actual role, like the supposed love interest in The Ring 2.
Okay, that wasn't where I thought you were going.
Oh, I only know him from that and Land of the Dead. I know him from nothing else other than those two movies.
Okay, well, he plays a significant role in a murder daytime TV show that most people know him from. I think he's in Castle.
I don't know what Castle is.
Okay, well, that's where most people know him from. He plays the like assistant person to the detective in the daytime murder show. Okay. Yeah, he's also in those movies.
Yes.
All right.
But he's a writer that she admires.
Mm-hmm. All right. Not the same role.
I mean...
yeah, he plays a writer in the daytime show. Yeah, it's Castle. He's the main character in Castle, where he's like a murder writer, and the police ask him to help him out on an investigation. And there's like a whole plot in this where she makes a phone call to, I think, Steven. And the character he plays is named Steven, so people like made this like long, deep rabbit hole of like, oh, she's calling Castle.
Okay.
All right. All right. Well, you're not in the cozy murder industry. That's fine.
No, I'm in the very violent, gory murder movie.
This man is also in the cozy industry, and that's where everyone else who watched this movie knew him from.
Also, I do have a question about this, and I don't know if there's an answer. How come every like upscale like party and meetup we see for the most part are like at these converted warehouses?
Because in this time period, that was cool.
I mean, it's still cool, but it's like...
But back then, there wasn't a billion of them already made up.
True.
There was, like, a handful that were actually nice and in a, like, chic neighborhood. And, like, they call this a party, but we all know very damn well that this is not a party. This is a business meet and greet.
Yep.
That is pretending to be a party.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, this is a corporate event, in essence, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen... We've had corporate events, and I've seen numerous of our higher-ups quite sloshed.
Yes, but again, we are a progressive firm that promotes our terrible habits. One of which being sloshed.
Yeah.
We're architects, though. Like, that's one of our personality traits.
I think a lot of them have toned it down in the last couple of years.
I think a lot of them have realized that maybe they're getting a little too old to be doing splits on the dance floor at midnight.
Yeah.
You gotta reel it back into 10 p.m. But that's part of it, is like in the early 2000s, especially late 90s, early 2000s, the idea of a like done up warehouse was like, oh, that's very fashionable, that's very New York, that's very Chicago.
Okay. It's big city.
It was big city vibes. It felt like a place that like, oh,
rustic, but still on the upper end.
And it was
oh god, it makes me think of this fucking horror movie I saw that was really bad. I can't remember the name of it. It's about this couple who buy like this old meat plant that a bunch of murders took place at. And
they were going to upscale it into like a corporate...
Yes.
Yes.
No, they were upscaling it into high-end apartments.
That was also popular.
Yes.
Yes. In fact, I knew someone who bought one of those suckers. And then they sold it.
Yeah.
Because it's not comfortable.
No.
But at least not back in the early 2000s. But yeah, that was part of it, was like, oh, this would be a place that, like, a fashionable place that's doing a corporate quote-unquote party would hire this place to host it.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, it's kind of like, oh, there's a ton of those. That's not the cool place anymore. They're going to be, like, in the future when movies like this are made about our time period, they're going to be a different sort of, like, venue.
Okay.
Probably, like, a full, like, fancy, what are they called? The, like, fake speakeasies that are popular now.
Yeah, I went to one with Mark that's underneath a ramen restaurant. One of the times
where it's like, everyone knows about it, but they pretend to be, like, a secret.
Oh, no, this didn't even have a secret door. It was just to the basement of the ramen house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, that's the sort of thing where, like, it's popular now. A high-end place might, like, fully rent that, like, one of the really nice ones out in Chicago that's, like, full themed and all that. Like, that's gonna get rented out for, like, their level because that's fashionable, that's cool right now.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, makes sense. But from here, we get a cut. We cut to the what it's called, a preview.
Yes.
Which is kind of like our reviews for architects.
The preview is where we talk shit about all the work that you did.
Yes, where Andy is. Emily's still the assistant in charge, but Andy is brought along because she's learning in stride.
She's supposed to be shadowing.
Yes. And bluntly, we're given Miranda's opinion is the only opinion that matters.
You know, she's not wrong, though.
Yes. And we get the little keys of everyone, like, learning to speak without speaking. Of everyone, like, learning, okay, here's her tics. If she does this, we're going to change the entire lineup. And they leave of Andy asking Nigel, so this guy's going to change his entire lineup because Miranda didn't like one thing? Yeah. Yeah.
And, like, if you're in an industry that has, like, the one opinion matters sort of mindset, which, like, granted, because we do corporate stuff, thankfully, it's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I know people who do less corporate things who, like, yeah, this is kind of the way. Like, the last reviewer could come along and be like, yeah, you know, I've thought about it, and this key design element that you pulled from, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And, like, sometimes it's the bitchy, I don't like it way. And sometimes it's, I've 30 years experience in this field, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, I do kind of wonder how, like, because of the more modern architects, like Bjork Ingels is so good at just simplifying and explaining his concepts.
He's one of the few who actually can speak well about his ideas
without going in, and all his ideas are they're logical based instead of, like, pulling from, like, some archaic source.
Which helps him explain things to your average non-architecty person. Yes.
But I also wonder, like, how many iterations they go through in that.
I've seen some older stuff, and, like, granted, the newer ones don't talk about it as much as the old architect sources do, because the old ones were very proud of, like, how much they, like, struggled to make a design. The new ones, it feels like, oh no, it's fluid. Like,
yeah, it's back to the old mysticism of architecture.
Yeah, we've definitely, like, reversed to that for a lot of places, but I do remember there was a time period where, like, the struggle was part of the, like, appeal to being that sort of architect or designer. And, like, they would talk about, like, yeah, we did this so many times, and, like, this is how many models, like, it'd be, like, dozens of models made.
Yeah.
On, like, what I would consider a rather large scale. And they're like, no. This is small scale for us. Like, like, we have to go through this.
We have a team dedicated to this modeling.
Yeah, and, like, I'm over here ripping parts of it off because, like, this isn't gonna work, or this piece is wrong. Like, and, like, granted, there is always a better way to critique. There is always a better way to give feedback or explain that, like, hey, just so you know, I've seen this before, it didn't work then, I doubt it's gonna work now. But most of the time in this industry, especially industries where, like, there is the one person, there has to be a level of mysticism about them, otherwise, like, anybody
Why would you hire them?
Exactly. Like, they're no longer the head honcho if everyone can do their job.
Yeah.
So that level of bitchiness also being part of their personality at this point, everyone pretends to have hurt feelings, but if you're in the industry long enough, at some point you just kind of adapt, I think. Because, like, we definitely have moments like this. Granted, thankfully, again, we live in a very progressive firm that this is not usually a problem.
Yeah.
Or at least not to this extent.
Yeah.
We definitely still deal with it, but, like, not from our own boss.
No.
It's usually from the client.
Yeah. I know you're going through something like that, too.
Yeah.
That's a whole different story.
And that'd be the equivalent of them being scared of a button in this movie, but, like...
Yeah.
But yeah, like, that's part of, like, these sorts of, like, team-based but one leader jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it happens in lots of industries.
Yeah, like, I mean, how we, like Stanley Kubrick, for example, film-wise, or, like, we do like that underdog story of someone struggled to make something for a decade, like, recently Phil Tippett's Mad God, that took him 30 years to make.
And, like, that's going to be part of the reason some people go see it, is like, oh, this took 30 years to make, I gotta see the hard work that went into this.
Yeah, which, check out my Chiller review that I did yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah, anything that anyone can interpret as an art.
Yeah.
Even if it's a loose, like, interpretation of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say in more pop or more recent culture, Squid Game.
Yeah.
Which I still have only seen episode 1.
But you now have the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's kind of all part of it, is, like, the combined understanding of how much effort it takes, plus a level of mysticism of, like, how you thought this up, how you come up with these ideas. Like, having that perfect balance is part of the industry.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's a good thing, that's a different point, and not one this movie tries to, like, go for at all. Mm-hmm. But, like, it definitely fully addresses the fact of, like, there has to be a team all behind you ready for that level of bullshit to make it happen.
Yep. It all trickles down. It all trickles down,
and depending on what your team looks like, you know, that's what the industry, like, that's what other people are going to look for.
Yeah. So from here, Andy is given the key to deliver the book.
She's made it in a very short time span.
Yes.
Like, we haven't even hit a whole year, right?
No, this whole movie takes place in under a year.
Yeah, this is ridiculously fast for a new hire who's never been in the industry before.
Yes.
And no one else in the firm even remotely brings this up to her.
Nope, not at all.
They just let her believe she is failing miserably half the time.
To a point, because at this point we've seen her actually get a grasp of everything. She's answering the phones. She's capable in what her previous role was, and now she's given that little bit more responsibility, which she immediately is a bit drunk on overconfidence.
It happens. We've all seen it.
To be fair, the directions were not clear. She was told to put it on the table with flowers.
There's a lot of flowers.
20 flowers, even though it is... She's overthinking it, too. It's very clearly which one it's supposed to be on.
Yeah, but, like... Yeah, she's overthinking it.
Yeah.
She's panicking.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be an in-and-out job, so of course it's going to go on the closest thing to you, and she immediately starts snooping around.
Which, there's a time and place for snooping. This is not the movie.
Nope. Because she's... told by the creepy girls that, oh yeah, Emily can always bring it up, and they are agents of fuckery, and I appreciate them.
Yeah.
Because, oh man, I can't wait for our friends' children to discover lying.
Soon. Yeah. One of them is getting real close to it. They learn to talk, and then they learn to lie almost immediately back to back.
Oh, it's gonna be great.
It's always the cutest, too, when they don't understand how a lying really works.
Oh, no.
That's my favorite age of lying.
Oh, I'm gonna tell them weird shit like I told my youngest brother when he was a kid, that it wasn't the iceberg, it was a narwhal stuck in the iceberg that sunk the Titanic.
Yeah! Hell yeah!
Which Tanner still denies to this day, but we know because he denies he ever did this. He's like, oh yeah, no, I knew you guys were lying. It's like, no. We remember you came back and were upset that we told you because you brought it up to your teacher about it.
Yeah, that is part of the joy of being a sibling of any kind, is getting your siblings to believe a bullshit lie.
Yes.
Just the most ridiculous one physically possible.
Yep. But, this mess up allows us to learn that Miranda isn't picture perfect.
But, like, honestly, not shocked. Not surprised. This woman has a lot of, lot riding on just her.
Yeah, but she doesn't have the life work balance. She's dealing with husband issues, marital,
which is part of the reason this movie is smart.
Mm-hmm.
Because at no point does this movie like directly say like, working all the time is bad. You should just not. But it brings up the good point of like, if you choose to do this level of intensity without any work anywhere else in your life, you're going to fuck something else up.
Exactly.
It's just not possible to do just this and expect the rest of it to fall into place.
Yep. And Andy has to deal with that in the morning because I love that little line of venom.
Yeah.
You can do anything, right?
Yes.
It's that anything of like she's telling her, hey, you overstepped your boundaries.
Yep.
And now she has to go find the newest manuscript of Harry Potter.
The one that's not even done writing yet?
Yep.
Yeah, this is my favorite scene in the whole movie.
But it's also where she starts to thrive because now she's starting to make connections. And she's just having her do pointless tasks as well, so...
Yes, we've reached full bitchery.
Yes, but it is also, like, Andy's last big trial before being fully accepted because she finally knows her job.
And, like, she finally has the tools to do the job. This kind of feels like, yes, it's bitchy, but it also kind of feels like if you can do this, then I can finally trust you to do the actually important tasks.
Exactly.
Because, like, let's be real, if she fails to get the unwritten manuscript to the twins, this woman has another gift planned.
Oh, yeah.
Like, these kids are going to get another gift anyway.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Miranda already had the unpublished copy somewhere else.
Or something even better.
Yes.
That she's she is not a woman to hang everything on this one stupid request.
Nope.
But this would be a good time to test to see how much the new girl has learned.
Yeah, well, and then on top, and punish her as well.
Yeah, you make her sweat a little bit, yeah.
But Andy even's like, oh, I'm done, before she gets the manuscript, she calls Nate and's like, oh yeah, I'm done. I messed up. I'm gonna be fired. And I don't think she would have been fired. No,
the rate at which this woman has plowed through this industry is so staggering, but no one has bothered to tell her that this is not a normal progression.
No.
In any field, let alone fashion journalism, which has morphed into just fashion at this point.
Yeah.
Like, she's not even really doing journalism.
No, she's just a secretary at this point.
She is plowing through this so fucking fast, and no one has bothered to be like, by the way, what you've done in a handful of months is what normal people do in like 5 years.
Yeah, we went to school for this.
We went to school for multiple years, like at least 4.
Yeah.
Then we did this for 5 years, and now I'm allowed to look at the book.
Yes.
And you've done this in 4 months with no schooling. Fuck you.
Very much
But no one
so.
has told her that, so of course she feels like she's failing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she does not understand the power she has.
Yep. Which Presley's impressed, but Nate is very disappointed as she kept her job because she's he comes home and she's working on the school, one of the kids' school projects.
Granted, I think this is where the actor was pinpointing the Nate hasn't matured enough to be the support she needed.
Mm-hmm.
Because this would have been a great point as a boyfriend to be like, hey, this feels a little silly. Do you want help finishing this? And then we can work on how to put a boundary up here. Mm-hmm. Because you don't need to be doing your boss's grandkids' schoolwork. Yeah.
Well, so here's the other thing too.
But also he just comes off as fuck, she kept her job.
Well, and to be fair, Andy isn't really... There's a point where she's not...
She also needs to work on this. For sure.
They're both at fault because after he's disappointed in that, she's like, but it's gonna help my career still. And he's like, all right, whatever. And she says, he's like, I miss the you that was before this job. And understandable.
Understandable. Could have worded it better.
Mm-hmm. But on top of that, she just says it's the same Andy but better clothes and decides to show off her bosoms.
A fair point.
Yeah, a
fair point. She has boobs.
Yes.
That is a valid argument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, she could have approached it from a little bit more of a mature...
Oh, yeah. No, both of them at this point maybe need to go talk to somebody.
Yes.
Who has, a license in this.
But I'm not complaining. It's a nice bit.
Yes, it is.
Yes. But from here we go to a pretentious photo shoot with even Nigel's done with this shit.
Yes.
Where
Even Nigel, and you know it's bad if Nigel's done with it.
oh yeah, and it's some like stupid one of like everyone dressed as animals in
urban jungle.
Yeah.
And it's not even good.
No.
As someone who loves bullshit fashion, specifically the ones where it makes normal people go, what the fuck is this supposed to be? This is not good. This looks like a B-tier perfume commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Someone needs to pull a plug on this immediately.
It feels like it's filler for the magazine and Nigel's just doing the busy work that Miranda doesn't want to deal with.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Which I do love his quip of, if you're not careful, I'll feed you to one of the models.
I don't think they would eat her. Not lean enough.
Not at this point. But I do like that their relation, it is showing their development of like a professional and like a personal relationship.
Yeah, like almost like a mentoree.
Yeah, they're sarcastic to each other because it continues with each other throughout the movie.
Like we've reached a point where like they are both comfortable and speak fluent sarcasm.
Yes, which I do wish there was just a tad bit more focus on their relationship, but I think it works that there's not.
I do too. It would have been nice, but honestly, where would you put it?
Yeah, exactly. This movie's so fast paced as it is.
It is very fast paced.
Which he brings something up along the lines of, well, when your life's in crisis, your time for a promotion, which
he's not wrong.
just about to happen because Emily is getting sick and Andy is brought in because she's doing the job right. And
rude. Again, I feel like an HR department is needed here.
Yeah.
Your sick employee needs to go the fuck home and lay the fuck down.
Luckily, most of our employees who came in constantly sick are constantly at home working.
So they can be sick all they fucking want.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Keep your nasty germs at home.
Yes.
Gross.
Because Andy was supposed to have the night off, but now she and Emily are going to the benefit. Which
would have been better if Emily stayed the fuck at home.
Yes, which she is recognizing Andy's hotness as well. Because Andy does show up in a very nice dress.
Yep, looking cute.
And also, now that I'm thinking about it, Andy's outfits are a bit more conservative than how everyone else is dressing.
Yes.
Which is also a precursor to Miranda.
Yep.
Who is, even though she's dressing fashionably, it's all very conservative fashion.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's a specific style and not just what the public expects.
Yep. And we also get this little that just a little bit of Emily screwing up, but Andy kind of succeeding her a little bit.
Which honestly, like, in a healthy workplace, this would be the goal.
Mm-hmm.
To have, like, oh, you're sick? I do have someone who can step in and take over for tonight. Go home. Yes. It's okay to get sick. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, this movie is about a toxic work environment where that is not the case. Yep. So we just have sickness spreading her nasty sick germs on everybody. Mm-hmm. But it does mean that Andy gets to show off a little.
Yep, and even on her way out, she runs into Christian, who is working his charm, and she is oh so smitten.
He is very handsome.
Yeah. Yeah, in a way.
It's the entire gig that he plays at the TV show is like, oh, he's so handsome.
He has a very Heath Ledger-like look.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early Heath Ledger.
Not later.
No.
No, that is a different Heath Ledger.
Chaotic Heath Ledger.
A brilliant man, but we have lost the boyish charm.
He still has charm in the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. No, not Caligari. No. What's the movie he's in? The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Much later, we lose it all, unfortunately. Brilliant, but it is gone.
As is Andy's love life.
You know, I think it's time she found someone else anyway. Yeah. But we both need to work on ourselves.
Yeah, because there's a little bit of... He's like, it's not about the cake. I would have been fine with it. It's just... There's the lack of communication.
Yes, they both need to learn how to properly speak to each other.
Yep. But now we get a little bit where Andy can deliver the book no problem, but she's actually invited upstairs for the first time.
Bum, bum, bum.
Where she's given Paris week, or she's given the ultimatum of she has to tell Emily that Emily is not going because she can't have a sick person around.
Which, again, a fair statement, but that is the boss's job.
Mm-hmm.
Where is HR?
Well, that's the thing that this is where, with what we don't know coming up yet,
yes,
if we hadn't seen this movie before, this is, again, a testing from Miranda, seeing if Emily's going to be the next Miranda, the next protege.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
Because, and that's the thing, too. I think part of the reason Emily's hires haven't worked is because they've been Emily, and Emily's a good assistant.
But she's not the next one.
Yeah, she's not the next Miranda.
Yes, which is what Miranda's looking for.
Mm-hmm. And from here, we cut to the morning where Emily's desk is now the coat desk because Emily's not perfect and is running late this time. And the decision to have Emily not be in the Paris week is not in her hands anymore because as she's calling her, she gets hit by a car. Again,
look where you're going.
Yeah.
No one in this movie looks both ways before crossing a street. They just sprint out into traffic of New York.
Yes.
This is how you get hit.
But in the hospital, I mean, at least Emily does stand up for herself, and she is calling Andy out for being shitty,
Yeah, no, she did. She definitely is.
Which, and I think that proves the point of why Andy is different than everyone else, because while everyone else has been giving her shit, they've been giving her the tools to succeed.
Yeah.
But they haven't been, underhandedly trying to go under. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is the first time Andy has shown that, hey, I will do whatever it takes to advance.
Yes.
Yeah. And from here, we go to the gallery where it's a party for her friend Lily, who has a show or something. Lily's finally getting her break.
Yeah, the rest of the friends all have lives, which I do appreciate. None of the friends are stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
But, you do kind of forget who does what.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't even know what Emily did until this point. The only thing we know about the other, the guy friend is that he's actually into fashion and he works as a bank clerk. Some shit like that.
Yeah, that's about all we know.
Yeah. But Christian is at the party and it deepens and he tells her about the falafel restaurant that will change your life, which is probably the stupidest fucking line of this movie.
Correct. Yeah. But also feels like something that a man out of touch would be like, have you tried falafels? And you're like, yeah. Yeah, they're good. I don't know if they're going to change my life.
It's a man who's high on himself.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't even advertise something that you could be like, okay, I can understand how that might change someone's life. Have you been to this ice cream parlor? They put an entire cake on your ice cream. Is this life-changing? Maybe. How good's the cake?
Yeah.
A falafel place, while very good, is not going to change my life.
For me, falafel is just a really good drunk food.
It's such a street food.
Yeah.
It feels like something that the average New Yorker has eaten so many times, and this man has been so far up his own ass. He's like, I have discovered pancakes. And you're like, yeah, most of us have been eating them since we were 2, my dude. Calm down.
Falafel's fried chickpea.
I know, but it's the same level of commonality.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Ain't nobody over here being like, I have finally discovered the joys of, IHOP.
Yeah.
Except for this man who's been living on the top floor of someplace for a long time.
Oh, yeah. And Lily happens to see this, calls Andy out on her shit, which I do appreciate, everyone calling her out on, hey, you're changing, even though Andy's like, no, I'm the same Andy.
Yeah, I desperately wish there was a little bit better character growth.
Yeah.
Without the tremendous need for hurt and pain. But again, it's not the worst.
You need it to grow. You need setbacks to grow. And I think people do forget that.
Exactly.
But Andy, on her way out, being dramatic, I think her friend calls her a glamazon or something.
Yeah.
Runs into Nate, and Andy's the one who really starts to blow it out of proportion, I think.
I would agree.
Nate is the one who's trying to And here's why I think Nate is not the antagonist as well, is because this is the part where she's like, oh, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And he's like, yeah, I work at a diner, but I'm doing pretentious reductions all day. This is who I am. Like, and I think I think the conflict isn't that he's the antagonist. I think it's the fact that he is self-aware of who he is, and he's trying to let Andy know that he's okay with the changes, but Andy's not being truthful to
she needs to recognize what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the end of their relationship. They don't really say it's over, which I like that. It's not like, it's not the whole big, it's over moment.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a strong breakup, but at the same time, it also doesn't feel like they're working anymore.
Nope. Because right after this, it's time for Patty.
Which is very exciting.
Bigots.
Okay.
Hey, you're the one who insulted them with Les Mis.
This is true. That's true. If you're gonna be only able to order one thing there, at least baguette is good.
Bread is good.
Bread is good.
And Andy is obviously not ready for the red carpet while Miranda's living it up. But after everything, they come back down. Andy knocks like, hey, is there anything else you need? And she's like, yes, we got to rearrange stuff.
Of course.
Marriage is falling apart. We got to replace my husband with Snoop Dogg.
An odd choice, but okay.
But it also is that it shows Miranda's actually vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that her personal life is falling apart in the same way Andy's is.
Again, all of y'all need therapy.
A bit.
Some would go a long way here.
Yeah. Or at least read a self-help book.
Google something. Jesus Christ, guys.
But it also shows that when life slows down, it all comes out.
Yes.
It's very much that getting off of work and taking a nap at 4 o'clock or at 5 or 6 o'clock feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, just need the time to relax. But it's already back to work after this moment, and Andy. It's also eye-opening because this is Andy seeing what she can become, or what she will become if she continues this path.
I mean, they do lay it out pretty directly, huh?
Yep, because back at her room, Nigel is complimenting something that she threw together, and I like this bit because it's showing that Andy is learning the fashion, because it's not something that Nigel put together for her, it's something that she actively put together.
Yes.
And now her mentor's acknowledging it. And also, her growth and confidence as she is now a size 4, bring up the number because she was a size 6 before.
Yeah, it is a commentary on the problem of the time, which is still a problem, but not one that needed to be in the movie as a compliment.
No.
Yeah, we could have just stuck to her working on the fashion part. There's enough happening here.
Yeah. But it's also just showing the other way she's changing.
True.
But also, Nigel's not there to compliment her on her stuff. He's there to self-pat him on the back.
You know, like one does.
Which shows their friendship, because of course you want to tell the person you're closest to in the industry that...
Yeah.
Because in a way, Nigel is currently Miranda's next in line, as what we're given. And
he's definitely attempting to make a career for himself in some way.
And in a way... She's the next Nigel.
Yeah.
And it's also showing that now he's going to be taking the position of Miranda, and that he's going to be finally able to live his life after 18 years.
This is what he's been working towards. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, we got a note earlier that on the red carpet we run into Christian again, who's like, "Hey, date time! Hey, I got you the Harry Potter book. Pat my back, or pat something else, please."
Haha.
Yes. Because now it's date time. Time for romance, and by romance I mean screwing.
Yeah, I mean it's a romish, comish movie.
Yeah.
It's going to be in here somewhere.
She's enamored by Paris, rebounding after what seems like a couple days, to be honest.
Yeah, again, some self-help podcasts might go a long way in this young lady's life, but you know.
She doth protest so hard.
Yes, very true.
And in the morning after the fun nights, she realizes she's late, but in her scramble, she finds out that Nigel's not getting the position, and Miranda's to replace for a younger, cheaper, and fresher takes.
Of course.
Which also, I think the director mentioned that, or one of the people on the commentary. By the way, all our information about the movie comes from commentary, mainly from the DVD.
Yes.
But someone along it mentioned that her nightwear is very dominatrix-like.
Yeah, I mean a little bit.
To a bit. I mean, it's not. She's missing the whip and the pleather boots, but
I feel like we could lean in more if we desired. But yeah, it's definitely seductive.
Christian, you kinky man.
Yeah, it's that level of dominatrix. It's the light touch, like light foot into the door.
Yeah, which this is the part where I think Andy shines as where she is still true. She's still a part of her old self is there because she's trying to give warning to Miranda.
Yeah,
she's still her old caring self, but at the dinner, it turns out that Nigel's been blindsided. Nigel has no clue.
Oh,
and
poor Nigel.
This is the end of his little side arc where they bring up something along the lines of, well, she'll scratch my back someday, and Andy's like, what will she really? And she's like, I have to hope for the best.
He has a good point.
Yep. Which also just shows how manipulative Miranda is.
That is the entire point of the movie.
Yep. And after all this, we get the little bit of them in the car together, and that Miranda's even admitting that she sees herself and Andy. They're even wearing very similar enough dresses.
Yes.
This is one of the few movies that I did pay attention to the fashion a little bit.
Yes, both of them, as slowly throughout the movie, Andy's outfits lean more towards Miranda's styling than like her coworkers.
Mm-hmm. And the whole little bit of everyone wants to be us.
Again, not wrong.
Nope. It is very much a kind of cheerleader-like story, like the high school. Everyone wants to be us.
We are the popular crowd.
Like the Heathers.
Yes.
Yeah. But now we get the decisive moment, the climax of the movie where Andy decides she's getting a phone call from who knows who. Because Miranda's obviously not calling her.
And that's at this point the only person who calls her.
Yeah, because Miranda's walking up the stairs.
She can see her not calling her.
Yeah. Tosses the phone in the fountain and returns to New York City to make up with Nate and give her clothes from Paris away to Emily, which that is
sweet.
This is probably my least favorite moment in the whole movie.
Uh-huh.
The fountain moment.
I also hate the fountain moment.
Because it's very much the I'm going home without the taxi.
Yeah.
It is the cheesiest, stupidest, sappiest part of the movie. But it also in a weird way works, but I hate it.
I agree. I feel like there is less sappy ways that could have gone through with this.
Mm-hmm.
But it does work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not my favorite cliche style of like, I'm done with my life. Throw it in the ocean. Or in this case, fountain.
Yeah, it's a moment.
It's a moment.
Yeah. And we cut to a job interview where the guy's like, so, runway, you worked there for less than a year. That's a blip. What was that? She's like, well, I don't know. I learned a lot. I grew, and I'm not there. It wasn't for me. And he's like, well, I called Miranda, and she said you're the biggest disappointment that she's ever had.
Yeah.
But you'd be stupid not to hire her.
Yeah, an honest review, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if anything, Miranda is Miranda.
Yes. And, like, that is part of this movie that I like.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Miranda is not necessarily the actual bad guy. Miranda is the bad guy to herself.
Yeah.
But I don't want Miranda to grow.
No.
I want Andy to grow.
And she has, because...
Yeah. She decided to leave the toxic world of that magazine to go for another one. Yeah,
and she really definitely had... She had an impact on everyone else in the movie, too.
Yeah.
Because it shows that she was kind to Emily in the end.
Yeah.
And
she's learned from this experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, Emily is still bitchy in her own way. where she says that the new assistant, she tells her, you have very large shoes to fill.
Which at least is a compliment.
Yes, very much so. And we get the ending of the movie, which is they see each other from across the street, and Miranda watches Andy as she just walks in, is full of confidence, and then goes right back to telling the driver to, well, go.
Yeah.
And fashion did change Andy for the better, but it's also a very Dark Knight Rises ending moment. I hope to see you away from the or across a cafe, and you have a kid, and you're living your life,
and you look happy.
Yes.
yeah. No, it does. It does. It has the same feel.
And the credits roll as she walks on, and that's The Devil Wears Prada.
Such a film.
Yes, which it did well on release, both critically, did well and mixed at the same time, critically and audience-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Selling-wise, it did very well.
Oh, yeah, it did.
Where the mixed reviews came from was both the writer of The Devil Wears Prada as well as the fashion critics.
Of course, the fashion critics had stuff to say about it.
Some of them were very judgy about it, of like, oh yes, it's a fashion of where it's a fashion tale of what our industry actually is.
Yeah, of course.
And some of them were like, yeah, this is pretty good. Like, I mean, it's a movie.
Yeah, it's a movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's not supposed to be a documentary on the fashion. I think one of them, or maybe the writer even said, like, if you want something more accurate, go check out this documentary. And it's like, piss off.
Because there are plenty of documentaries that more accurately describe the fashion industry, not just in the past, but like throughout every decade.
Yeah.
There is a new one constantly. Because it is interesting. But a documentary does not good movie necessarily make.
Exactly. And I think even the writer, like, was initially not pleased with it because it wasn't close. I don't think it was like, I think part of it was because the movie has that little bit of comedy to it at the beginning that doesn't really... Like, it's a little satirical at the beginning, but not... Well,
and like the beginning and then again at the end, it runs through a very cheesy sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And they work, and they're fine. It's a movie, and it's a good time. But they are a slightly different tone than, like, the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
Not enough to be like, oh my god, that's weird. But, like, enough that, like, from a very critical standpoint, someone who's been standing too close to this movie for a long time...
Yeah.
I could see how they'd be like, no, it wasn't what I thought it would be.
Yeah, well, and I also think that Weisberger, from what I've read, it seems that she's come around to it.
Yes, it's definitely one of those movies that the longer it sits, the less problems you see with your own creation.
Yes. Yeah, no, exactly. And I don't know, for me, I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I thought it was a good movie. It's got cheese.
It does, but it's not heavily drenched nacho style in cheese.
Yeah, and it's also not and that's the other thing too, is it's not trying to be... It's not trying to be like what Andy was trying to be in the movie. Or it's not trying to be a high-end fashion movie.
No.
It's very much a pulp movie, but a well-done pulp movie.
And the other thing that I think works really well with this is this movie gets put in the comedy section by default a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue it's not really a comedy.
No.
Which honestly works better than if it had been.
Yes.
Like, yes, there's some cheese to it. Yes, there's some quib remarks because, like, this is an office full of people who are very sarcastic and live their life on the edge constantly. So, of course, they're going to have a witty blow.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it doesn't feel like the ha-ha track reel of a standard romance comedy, or even just a drama comedy, which honestly I think is part of the reason why this movie stands out for me, is because there is some funny parts, but honestly, and there is mostly drama, but it's not drama for drama's sake.
Yes,
exactly. It has like a actual story arc and growth for not just like a single character who's there making it in the big city, but like pretty much everybody in this movie does have some sort of growth.
Yeah.
Granted, some of them are very small, but like everyone does learn something from each other in this.
No, exactly. And I think part of what makes this movie also stand out more so than others is it's more accessible,
Mhm.
where it's, and I think why it stands out over a rom-com is, in general, rom-coms are so heavy-handed on the male perspective or the female perspective,
Yeah.
where this one, even though the main character is a woman,
She's living in what traditionally would be a guy's world.
but also just like her as a character is, we've harped on a little bit before, we've all been there. It's
like it doesn't matter if you're a woman trying to make it in the industry.
Mhm.
Like there's plenty of dudes I know who like they're not even in the fashion industry. They're not even in anything that would be remotely considered a like female industry.
Yeah.
But like they've all had that fucking boss. They've all had to
Mhm.
put in a ridiculous amount of overtime. Granted, hopefully, no one's doing their boss's grandkids' art project.
No, that is where I would draw the line.
I would too, but like that's the level of like, oh, that's the comedy.
Mhm.
That's the comedy is like how over the top she's willing to go, not necessarily haha, let's make fun of her.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think works out perfectly as like a satire on the situation that a lot of people deal with.
No, exactly, and it puts it in and also it puts it in an industry that feels mythical a bit to the common folk, and it does it in a smart and intelligent way, unlike how I know we've bitched about it, and we'll have to do this movie at some point, The Fountainhead.
Yes. Fuck The Fountainhead.
Oh, God.
God, I had to write so many fucking papers about The Fountainhead. I hate it.
For those who don't know, The Fountainhead, for a lot of the preachy reviewers and stuff, is like the premiere of like, or the pristine of like architects in movies, and
even in books.
Yeah,
I have the book. The book is dry as fuck. Ugh, but
drier than the sands of Dune.
Honestly, I'd rather read Dune. I would rather read Dune than The Fountainhead.
I'll get to Dune at some point.
Give yourself a lot of free time and like a copious amount of other stuff to do while you're reading.
Audiobooks.
Yeah. Audiobook it while you're stuck in the car and have nothing better to do with your life. But yeah, like this is a much cleverer, much more accessible version of like introducing this level of like over the top world that honestly everyone does have experience with. You just don't realize how similar it is because like there is a mysticism around it. There is like a, oh no, I'm not into fashion.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. You just don't realize you are.
Exactly. And I mean, I've realized that a long time ago. I realized I dress like a bum, so.
But bum is a fashion.
Nowadays it is, but like it's just the same shit I wore like back in high school.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's the thing that like why Devil Wears Prada works where things like The Fountainhead don't, is because yes, all of this touches everyone, whether or not you like it, unless you are a full nudist, and even then you could argue that you're still being affected by fashion.
Yeah, you're counterculture, you're like the Satanist of Christianity.
Yeah, so like this affects everyone, and it's more familiar than people like to admit, but this is done in a fantasy fake way that feels real. It's close enough to the real thing that other people don't have to spend ages trying to decipher what the hell you are talking about. It's right there, it's open. Yes, it is pulling from all of the tropes that would be part of it, the parties, the review styles, like how the final product needs to be like put out into the world, but it's in such an accessible way that like you don't feel like there's a learning curve that you have to go through. You don't have to be in fashion to watch the movie. Yeah,
and also it doesn't Andy doesn't create or do a domestic act of terrorism for her art.
Yeah, or, attempt to murder herself. Yeah, like, there's a lot wrong with The Fountainhead. But
we'll save that for that movie.
Oh God, that's going to be the longest rant of my life.
We'll do a 2-parter on The Fountainhead if we do it, because it's like a 3 or 4 hour movie.
It's so long! Why is it so long? But yeah.
That's the thing. This movie's digestible too. It's like, what, an hour 40-some minute runtime?
Yeah, it's a perfectly good length. It's fast-paced the whole way through, so you feel like you are, like, matching the pace of the character herself. Like, you don't feel like there's any parts that are dragging. The writing is all comedic and witty and fast. There's not a whole lot of, like, dead characters. Like, this is genuinely a smartly written movie, and I think part of the reason why nowadays, especially, it kind of gets, like, pushed under the rug of, like, oh, no, my dad's not gonna watch Devil Wears Prada, is because people have forgotten, like, that this movie isn't about fashion necessarily.
Well, so when I told my parents we were doing this review, my dad's like, "Oh, that's a good movie."
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The people who have already seen it, already was forced to watch it when it came out, like, everyone remembers how good this movie is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't already seen it, then that's where the barrier lies, because this movie, like I talked about at the very beginning, it had so much advertisement for it that, like, even the dudes who were not into fashion were not going to watch a movie with a high heel on the front cover.
Mm-hmm.
The trailer for it was good enough that you were like, oh, this isn't, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
And then you were surprised by how good it was. Or it was exactly as good as you thought it was, depending on, which side of the coin you came from. But nowadays, like, I think the only piece of advertisement that has really stuck in people's heads, unless you've seen the movie, is the poster, which honestly, iconic. But, like, that's kind of the one small downfall of this movie, is, like, the movie poster is so iconic, it is perfect, but it does not represent the rest of the movie properly.
Yeah, or it's podcasts like us bringing up,
yes,
dragging it back up into, or trying to drag it back up into the public consciousness again.
Exactly. So,
and I think it goes without saying, Chris, but we still have to do it.
Yes.
On our good, bad, weird scale, what do you rate this movie?
Oh, this movie's so good.
It's a good for me too.
So good.
I say good with a little bit of a caveat with the little amount of cheese that just spoils it a bit.
Yeah, just a handful of cheese.
But it's still a good movie.
Agreed. 100% agreed. And I don't even normally like this sort of stuff.
Yeah. And so, on our other rating, would you recommend it?
I would. Oh my gosh, this movie is one of the few ones that, like, with the exception of children, everybody should watch this. Everyone should see this movie.
I would say teens and preteens could watch this easily.
Oh, yeah, because there is different points of this movie that, like, it's a good movie to watch. You don't have to pull anything from it. But also, like, it is so easy for, like, depending on where you are in your life, you can watch this as a warning movie. You can watch this as a reflection movie. Mm-hmm. You can watch this as a, like, man, I wish the industry had changed back in the day. Like, there's so many different aspects you can see this movie from that, again, with the exception of children who they could watch it. I don't think they'd like it. There's no reason for them to not watch it, minus the one nudie scene. And honestly,
well, and even
then, it's not that nudie.
It's not nudie at all. It is just cleavage.
It is just booby, and like it's not that bad. Like, you could get away with, like, the under 10 crowd maybe watching it with you, but, like, they're not gonna like it.
There are Pokemon that has more.
There's Pokemon with more boobs than this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Look at you, Markiplier.
But hell, Cast Form has big boob.
It does have big boobs. But, like, yeah, like, even if this is not your normal style of movie, even if you're like me and your normal thing is to watch, like, a man with pecs blow something up, you will still enjoy this movie. I promise.
Yeah, so I definitely recommend it as well. I don't think I said it, but I do recommend giving this a movie, even if you weren't interested in the first place.
Yeah, it will surprise you, I think.
Yeah, it surprised me. I mean, hell, when you told me that, hey, let's do this, I'm like,
yeah,
fine, let's do this movie. I don't give a shit.
I remember you texted me after you got done watching. You're like, this movie was actually good. God damn it.
Yeah, no, I think this is the one that I thought was gonna split us originally, but
no, this movie's solid.
Nope. Yeah, I definitely give this one a watch. So.
100%.
Yeah, but anywho, this has been the good, the bad, and the weird.
Thanks for listening.
Peace. Thank you for stopping by this here town of the good, the bad, and the weird. We appreciate your listenership, and if you want more of our takes in your life, feel free to check us out on social media at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, or TGTBTW for short. As well, if we missed a fact, your favorite part of a movie, or just have a suggestion and want to reach out and say howdy, feel free to email us at tgtbtwpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to join our Discord at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, where we talk about movies, just share random banter here and there. And always, check out our podcasters, streamers, or any other content creator we shout out in our episodes. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. Peace.